distracted and enjoy the show.
Hello, all you lovely people out there, and welcome back to Distractible. If it's your first time joining us, good evening. If it's your first time joining us in the morning, good morning. My name is Markiplier. I'm your host. Glad to be here with you right now.
It's so sensual.
I know.
This is the sexiest podcast we've ever done.
It's like you're trying to get us horny and put us to sleep at the same time.
That's what I'm all about. One starts it, one finishes it.
Do you want sexual dreams? Here's Markiplier's Go to Bed Up tape.
I've lost my voice. And much like most things in my life, even minor inconveniences are positive attributes. To me, the most perfect host of this incredible podcast.
Are you a light sleeper? Well, you can sleep hard with this new tape from Markiplier.
No, I've actually lost my voice. For everyone listening, I'm not playing this up. This is just, I've lost my voice, and this is what it is. So, this episode is going to be, well, it was right before we started recording. Bob and Wade was like, let's make this episode make Mark talk as much as possible. And I'm like, okay, thanks, guys.
Hey, I didn't say that. Do you think we know who said that?
Hey, I didn't agree to Wade saying that. Bob did.
I'm joined today by none other than the marvelous Meisker. I guess beautiful Bob. What does Baltimore say?
Some kind of B word, usually, yeah. Bob, something Bob.
And Wumbo Wade.
Better than Ryan Wriggling.
Who is Ryan, the mysterious fourth member of the podcast that's lurking in the corners?
Wait, no. Did you mean Rye, comma, and wriggling?
I think so. I don't know now. Now I'm questioning everything. Because you guys both looked at me like I was an alien.
Well, because you said it like someone's name was Ryan Wriggling.
I don't even know what bit you're going for at the moment, but I'm going to give you points for it anyway. So points for Wade.
Thank you.
Bold. I like it. Decisive.
Half a point for Bob. So, on today's episode, there's been some animosity in the subreddit.
Wait, for which one this time? Is it still the same one?
People are not over what happened to you, Wade. People have not and will not be able to get over the injustice anytime soon.
There is that one guy that said I was the worst debater of all time and deserved everything bad that was coming to me and stuff.
Where did that come in amongst the flood of I've never seen greater injustice?
Why do I only see Wade hate? You guys only see Wade love. What kind of weird subreddit organization is this?
I think that's just what stands out to you, Wade. You see people being nice to you. The whole 90% of the whole subreddit is people like, Wade got screwed. We love Wade. And you're like, yeah. Everybody loves Wade. This one post was mean.
There's one thing I know. It's that I'm the most underrated member of Distractible and the worst treated and the best and the most humble.
Well, I've come to you with a peace offering, Wade.
Yeah, because we're clearly at war. What do you offer? I'll think about it.
The name of this episode is called Wade Wins. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how much I disagree with it, you're gonna win this episode.
This is gonna be fun.
Unless you're mean to me.
That's all I had.
You had a notepad next to your computer and just said, be mean to Mark.
Can we take 5 so I can think of other things to say?
You can't interact with Mark without being mean to him. That's where we are right now.
No, I'm the nice one. The subreddit knows.
Whoa, do not take my title. I am the nice one.
After what you did to me, Bob, I've taken all the good titles.
I gave you the victory like a nice person.
Well, not when you say it like that. Points to me.
Bob, do you want me to change the rules that he can't be mean to you either?
No, well, he's got to be mean to someone. Wade can't talk without being mean, so he's got to have...
Fuck me, Wade. That's right, you ugly bald bitch. Can I be mean to me?
Yeah, you can be mean to yourself.
Yeah, I think Mark would probably enjoy that the most. If
Minus 10 points, Wade. Oh, do you have to hit me? Yes, I do.
So before we get into the meat of the episode, we gotta do small talk. So I would love to know what the new developments in you guys' lives are. Starting with Wade, of course.
Of course. This might date the episode a little bit. I tweeted this earlier, but we went to a dermatologist appointment earlier. Molly had an appointment due, and it's the same dermatologist I have. And I've got a lot of like freckles and moles and whatnot on my body. I don't know if you can see any of them on the camera, but I've got little ones dotted all over. So I have to go every year. Molly only has to go every like few years or whatever. And the doctor was like, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, to Molly. And I was like, okay, he doesn't remember Molly, but that's because I'm usually the patient. And he looked at me, he's like, and who's this? And I was like, I'm your patient. I've seen you like 3 times. He's like, oh, okay. And then like he started talking to Molly about work and stuff, and she was like, what do you do? And she's like, oh, I stream. What do you stream? And she was like, I asked all this stuff. It's like, what do you do? And I was like, I was only here like 3 months ago. We talked about this. You asked me about my channel and all kinds of stuff. He's like, oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know why this is killing me so bad. Just the fucking.
I don't know why it bothered, but like deep down, I was like, no, you're my doctor. Like she's new. You're my doctor. Remember me. I'm so important. Remember me.
I just imagined the whole time, like in the car, and the way you're like, now listen, Dr. Levinston is nice but direct, so he might be. We go way back, so if he says anything out of line, I can talk to him. I know, so doctors can be really mean. You get in there, he's like, who is this?
It was just the clearest example of him, like kind of feeling awkward that he didn't remember me, and like you could tell he was racking his brain, like think of something. Do you remember? And I was like, no, it's fine. But like the less he remembered, the more it bothered me, and I was like, I need you to never forget me again.
Man, my brother, he's very averse to scheduling things and going to appointments and stuff like that. About 6 years ago, he finally went back to the doctor. The last time he had gone was about when he was in college, which would have been about 7 years prior to that. So when he got to the doctor, his doctor looked at him and said, "You're not a patient here anymore." And my brother goes, No, I know it's been a bit, but I should probably get a checkup. I'm not getting enough sunlight. I need something.
He didn't make an appointment. He just went in.
Yeah, he just went in. And the doctor said, like, no. We clear patients after they haven't been here for more than 5 years. And I spoiled the story because I told you how long it'd been since he'd been to the doctor again. And he said, you're literally not a patient here anymore. But he was nice and treated him. At least he remembered him.
Okay. You didn't need the last sentence there. At least you remember.
At least you remember.
It had been 7 years, but at least it had been 3 months.
I get doctors see a lot of people, and you might not be a terribly
but it's me.
Remarkable. Well, that's what I was getting to. Is you might not be the most like interesting patient. Like I'm sure they remember people who have like weird illnesses, right? Because you're like, oh, I remember that. That was an interesting case. I can't imagine you meeting and talking to someone and you not just talking so much that they know your entire life story by the time you're done.
I know, he must have blocked me out. But how many bald, bearded white dudes could the man possibly treat? I'm kind of unique.
Look, Wade, I'm not gonna lie. If you were in a lineup with like 5 other bald, bearded white dudes, I might not be able to pick you out of the lineup.
Damn.
You say that, but when Jesse and I stand next to each other, we kind of do look the same. So I just figured what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over to the office like once a month and remind him. So that whenever I have my appointment in like a few months again, I think it's like October, there's no way he'll forget me because I'll have been there every month.
You got to get really artistic headshots, where you're posing all dramatically in black and white, and you just start leaving them on his desk. Just like 5 days, 4 days.
He like goes to like look at his wife and kids, and it's just me there. I just photoshopped my face onto his family, so he looks at the pictures, just a whole bunch of me standing next to him.
All right, Bob, how is your life?
I have things to talk about, but I have a question first for Wade because I'm just dying to know. Did you pick a car, buddy? Where's the car situation at? I'm dying to know about the car situation.
I've got it down, I think, to 4. We haven't gotten to drive a couple of them yet.
What's the list? I'm curious.
The one I've loved the most, but also has the biggest price tag, is the Escalade. I drove in that thing, and it was the smoothest, most comfortable ride I've ever had. It truly was. And the features, I don't know how many cars have this feature, but like having a 7-seater, they're long. So the rear view mirror has like a camera in the back. So instead of having to look through all of the rows of people that you don't care about in your car, that you bought the car to carry anyway.
Yeah, you talked about that last time.
You just see it right there. So I love that one. One that's kind of like a dark horse in this race is I think it's the Acura MDX.
Interesting.
So we love Hondas. We've had Hondas. I think it's the Pilot. Kind of disappointed in that one. Didn't really enjoy that one a whole lot.
So Acura is just luxury Honda, right? So isn't the MDX probably like based on the Pilot but nicer?
You'd think, but something about maybe I just drove a bad Pilot, but just like I felt like, I don't know, it just didn't feel good. Didn't feel responsive. I didn't like trying to accelerate. And I don't know, it just maybe I went in there biased or something, just thinking it was gonna be good.
I'm sorry, are you looking for a sports bus?
Well, look, you guys know the way people drive in Cincinnati. They're either 30 miles under the speed limit or 30 over. So when you're getting on the highway, you got to be prepared for either situation. Either hurtling on, or speed racer full speed before you even get to the exit ramp.
Wasn't that an episode of Top Gear where they modded out a bus to just go about 150 miles an hour?
Top Gear. Is that the one with Tom Cruise? No, that's Top Gun. What is Top Gear?
I don't want to explain what Top Gear is to Wade because it makes me sad that anyone hasn't experienced the joy that is Top Gear. It's a good show. It's a car show, but it's hosted by some very funny people who also tend to get into controversies and have thus been fired and moved around a little bit sometimes.
Kind of like the people in the opening credits to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. They get sacked all the time.
Good one, Wade. Point.
My small talk. Going well. I built a dresser this week, and I'm getting really into closet organization. You know, you ever just...
Why do you look so concerned at those words?
Well, I was thinking, aren't closets pretty straightforward? There's like a floor, a rack, and a bar usually, but I guess if you have like a walk-in, there's more space.
Okay, yeah. So we have our house that we live in Ohio now has walk-in closets. Every room has a walk-in closet. Yeah.
God, you have 2 side yards and walk-in closets? Damn.
Listen, yeah, I know.
First world problems.
So, but all the closets have in them is like wire shelves up on the wall that you can hang stuff on and set stuff on, and it's like that's okay, but you're wasting a lot of space. There's a lot of vertical space that you're not. So we're looking into solutions for like cheaply building in like shelves and stuff into the closet so there's more storage. And so I've been looking and researching, and I'm probably just gonna go honestly with the IKEA PAX closet modular stuff, but like I've been looking at different options and considering building it myself because I'm way too confident that I could definitely I've never done carpentry work, but I could figure it out. But anyway, that's my life right now. I'm looking at bins, storage containers, shelving units.
That's fun. I didn't get anything, but there was a while where I wanted to decorate my office by having like some of those like wall shelves and have stuff displayed.
And then you were just like,
I got posters, I need something.
And 90% of the foam up.
Mark visited and I was like, yeah, I'm going to fill this bottom in. And he looked really sad. And I've not filled it in because he liked the white. So I've left it for him.
Too much foam deadens the room too much. Wade, I think you got the right idea.
It's a bad like ratio though. Shouldn't it be up high? Shouldn't it be on the bottom third if it's going to be like that or something?
I suppose there is that. Yeah, it could be. But if he returns to a vertical format, he's spot on.
All right, make your camera vertical from here on out, Wade.
Yeah, Wade, verticalize.
All right. Whoop, there we are.
That's actually quick thinking. Wow.
Thank you.
For those watching on Spotify, Wade's genius is really showing through here. I gotta give it up for his creativity.
The video, what mode is that? That's a picture in square on your phone? Is that the default picture that you use?
I don't know. It just says photo 1x.
Switch it to video, Wade. Switch it to video. Oh, that's so much better.
Oh, God. Why did it age me 30 years? Oh, hey, everyone.
Anyway, for those also watching on Spotify, I have no idea why it looks like there's lightning outside my window. The brightness is like, do you see this?
Your lights from home have chased you down and are turning on and off outside.
There's a ghost in your house just frantically turning lights on and off like, why won't he notice me?
Point for Wade and half as many points for Bob. So, I want to kick off the episode with a story. I remember this very distinctly from my childhood. I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt awful. I couldn't even fathom why I felt bad. But all I knew was that I had to get to the bathroom as fast as possible. I got to the bathroom and it's not like I had to throw up or anything. It's not like I was about to poop my pants. I must have been like 5 years old at this time. In my kid brain, I was like, if I sit on the toilet, I'll feel better. And so I sat on the toilet and I have a memory of our dog at the time standing in the doorway staring at me. As the dog did not like me or my brother, which is like...
Why?
It was my brother, apparently when he was like a toddler, dropped her accidentally, and she never trusted us ever since, or kids in general. It's not like she would bite us or anything. She just wouldn't go near us.
You really dropped the dog on that one.
Good one, Wade. That's great.
Thank you.
Ow, that stung.
No, it was serious. It's just I'm sick. My voice is gone. The sincerity wasn't there.
I could tell you were being serious, but the tone of your voice still burned, Mark. It still felt...
You lost your voice on purpose just to sound cold.
So I remember being like so sick I was just hugging my knees and I was leaning over and I looked over at the dog and I was just waving to it. And the dog was just standing there ominously, staring at me, not moving a muscle, but just watching over me. And then it was dark, right? I got up in the middle of the night. I woke up because apparently I had fallen asleep at some time, and the sun was up, and the dog was still there, looking at me in the doorway. That was the earliest time that I was so sick that I couldn't even know what to do with myself. It's one of the earliest memories I have of being sick. And it was probably one of the times when I was sickest most. And I have this weird instinct every time like I get sick or like hurt in some way, I want to go to the bathroom and lay down on the floor. I want to get as low as possible in the bathroom. I did that when I first came out to LA, and I ate the world's second hottest hot sauce when it hit my lower intestine and I was crumpled in pain. I don't go to the hospital. I don't call a doctor. Well, at least at this point, I wasn't really in that mode because it wasn't in my mind. But I just want to collapse on the bathroom. You know, when I had my heart attack, what did I do? I was in the bathroom. I don't know if it was connected. I think it was just I had to take a piss and then I passed out. But I was on the bathroom floor. This isn't about your experiences in the bathroom. What I want to know, what is the sickest you guys have ever been? What are moments in your life when you were so sick that life just didn't make sense anymore? Because it could be when you were a kid, like recently. Yeah, back when I was super young, I got sick all the time. And I feel like I was probably closer to death than even my brain could comprehend. But who knows? I don't know. Because I would just never ask for help.
I'm sure like Mandy and my parents would tell me otherwise, but I feel like I can't think of a time where I was, except for maybe once, where I was so sick that it even stands out to me.
Really?
I'm a big wimp about getting sick, but I'll usually I'll be sick and I'll be kind of pitiful, but I'll take cold medicine and then I'll just go, get pushed through it, get by. But I will say the Christmas 2019, so right before COVID, we went home to Ohio. We were living in California and we went home to Ohio, and we went to Mandy's family parents' house, and her whole family came back, her siblings and everyone. Somebody had a respiratory infection that was just a real nasty, very COVID-like respiratory infection that we all got basically. And so we got back to California after the holiday, and Mandy and I were both like, uh-oh. Well, I feel the sick coming on, like crap. That's not good. I've had COVID twice. I got pretty sick, but I still it was never so bad that I was delusional. It's just I get bored of it, right? I hate being sick, and it's I just want to get back to life because you can't. But I got pretty sick that time. It was January of 2020. Mandy got so sick that I was a little bit afraid she was going to lose her mind, like that fake Russian sleep experiment where they made the people stay awake for weeks and then they all went insane. She was so sick that she couldn't sit down or she would start coughing uncontrollably. If she was standing up with really good posture, she could breathe okay. If she even sat, if she slouched or bent her or changed her posture at all, coughing gonna throw up, coughing so intensely. And she didn't sleep for several days because she couldn't do anything but stand up and pace around and try and take a hot shower. I'm pretty sure it was COVID or something. We don't know. This is the worst disease that I have ever seen. And like I said, it was pretty bad for me. I was very sick. Mandy we went to the hospital and they tested her and they were like, well, you don't have the flu or whatever, you're fine. Cough it out, come on, calm down, nerd. But she straight up was so sick that I was afraid that the illness was going to hurt her, but also was so sick that she couldn't sleep that I thought she was going to go insane or something from sleep deprivation. So that for me, I was pretty sick, but it was a whole other level for Mandy. And that was probably the craziest illness I've been that close to in terms of sickness that you got, infection you got from someone. And I can't think of a time for myself. I got strep throat as a kid all the time. I was sick a ton and I would get colds. And I would just pop some cold medicine and go do whatever I needed to do. I'm sure I will now, but I don't get that kind of sick, I guess, where it's ruins your whole life and you don't know what to do with yourself.
I had strep throat a whole bunch too. In 7th grade, I think I had it 6 or 7 times. But the worst one for that was when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I didn't get it treated right away or something happened where it developed into like scarlet fever, and I had all of like these horrible painful rashes that like go between like your joints. It's like your armpits and like between your thighs and like knees and stuff. Anywhere that like you have for some reason like your skin compresses on itself, like you get these rashes, and like you can't move. With scarlet fever, it's like you can't move because everything hurts so badly. And I don't remember if it was my birthday or Christmas or a holiday or what it was, but I remember my grandparents coming over. Like my grandma had got me, or my grandparents got me new shoes. And, like I was trying to look at the shoes, but I couldn't even open the box because it just hurt so bad to move. And I remember just like breaking down and crying, trying to like open a box because moving was so difficult. COVID was pretty bad. Thankfully, we were vaccinated, so I don't think it hit as bad as it could. But if we hadn't been, I don't know how bad it would have been, because I had like 3 days that were really, really bad. But the worst was like toward the end of the third day, breathing got really difficult. And like I had this like wheeze, and every time I would breathe, it just didn't feel like I was getting enough oxygen. It was like I had to deep breath to feel like I was breathing properly. I was close to going to the hospital, so it was like, I don't want to have to go. I think I'll be okay. But like whenever you're breathing and like your chest start having issues, it's like, okay, now I'm a bit concerned. After a day or two, that finally got better and went away. But the one that stands out as the most miserable for me was just one night. I was with my high school girlfriend. We were getting ready to actually go to Buffalo Joe's, which just closed.
R.I.P. Buffalo Joe's.
And I hopped in her Mustang with her, or her grandparents' Mustang with her. So I got in the car. Her grandparents had this Mustang. I sat in the back seat, and we were driving, about to get on I-275 to go up there. We were living in Milford then. And we got over to where the highway was, and I just out of nowhere was like, oh no. I vomited all over the back of her grandma's seat, and she had like her hair like done. Is it called a It's like all curled out, like hairspray, looking like all fancy. Puked all over it. That night, I could not sleep for more than like 15-minute increments. It's like I would fall asleep, immediately wake up, have to hurry to the bathroom and throw up again. And eventually I didn't have anything in my stomach, so it was just dry heaving. But like it got to the point around like 3 or 4 in the morning where it's just like I quit going to bed, and I laid on the bathroom floor or on the carpet right outside the bathroom, so that way I was as close as possible. Because by the time I got back to the bed, it was like I had to get up to go back to the bathroom again. I was just like, I'm done.
That's pretty rough. That sounds like nasty. Like, I don't know. What is that? Food poisoning? Stomach flu? I don't know what it is.
I just realized where I think I get my aversion to telling people that I'm sick comes from. I think it comes from my mom, because my mom told me a story way after the fact about how she thought she was going to die because she was so sick. This was during COVID. So apparently she got COVID, and so she just went to bed and then didn't come out of the bedroom for like a week. And she said, I'm in LA, so I don't know. But she said, my brother still lives with her. So I asked her, like, what do you mean? I was like, I was so thirsty. And I'm like, you didn't get water? And I was like, I couldn't get out. You didn't ask Thomas? I was like, I didn't want to bother him for water.
Jesus Christ. Just laying in bed like, gonna die soon. Can't bother son for water, though.
There's water in the bathroom 5 feet away. Literally, my son 10 feet away could bring me some water, but I'm gonna embrace death instead.
Now, my mom has a tendency to exaggerate. I think you both know. But also, I don't doubt that.
It was like 3 hours where she didn't feel well and was a little thirsty. I sneezed and I was laying down. I was very thirsty. It was about 2 hours. It was 7 days.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure if you go 7 days without water, I think you die. Oh, man. But she did say, I asked her, like, oh, man, how long are you sick? She did say she was sick for a month. So it was like, and you didn't ask for help at any time? It's like, I don't bother. She didn't tell me either until way after the fact. Did you guys, as a kid, did you get exposed to chicken pox in a party?
Yeah, my brother and I think, went over to where my cousin had it, and like they exposed us, and we were all just miserable and itchy for a few days.
Do you mean on purpose?
Yeah, on purpose.
Yeah. I was on purpose.
I did not get it on purpose. I think I got it from school, but I had it over Christmas one year was the thing. We were in Detroit visiting my mom's side of the family for Christmas, but I was like taking oatmeal baths in the hotel bathtub and stuff like that. But I don't think I got it on purpose. I think I got it from school.
What's an oatmeal bath?
It's oatmeal and water, I think, in a bathtub. And it's like a thing. It's supposed to help with the itchiness, right? It's like you to scrub the oatmeal around, or I don't know.
Oh God, that brings up another horrible memory. I had an allergic reaction. I'm not going to say to what, because I don't want people trying to murder me. There's a medicine that I I had a pretty severe allergic reaction to where I broke out into hives. I had 1 teaspoon of this medicine, and I broke out into hives that lasted about 2.5 days. I had full body hives, and they like chicken pox I don't remember as much, but hives I will never forget how itchy I was. It was like all of me everywhere, just these giant bumps, so itchy. And on top of that, I was still sick from whatever I had because I couldn't take the medicine they gave me because I was allergic to it. But I remember my grandparents putting me in the bathtub, and we tried things. I don't remember if it was oatmeal, but we tried so many different remedies where they put me in the tub and just put random crap, and they're like, yeah, this should help. And then I don't know if it was coincidence or actually what helped, but I was down near Lake Cumberland at the time. I was on vacation. I was sick the entire vacation, but like they took me down to like the boat ramp and let me just go into the lake water. And then like a few hours later, my hives actually went away. I'm not saying the lake water actually cured it. It was probably just coincidental timing, but like I felt like the lake was like my Jesus rebirth. I went into the lake all itchy and I came out and I was like, I'm alive again! Take off my oven mitts. I don't need to scratch.
That's the question though. The next day, did you see the lake getting all crazy and scratching itself on like trees and stuff? Because it took your hives for you.
After 3 days, I rose, but the lake, it sank. No lake anymore, actually. It's completely gone.
Lake Cumberland is gone. Little known fact.
It's just bumpy rocks.
Dude, speaking of reactions to medicine, so James has been, babies get sick, so it's not weird that James has gotten a few illnesses. He had one where his fever was pretty bad, and we were kind of freaked out, like we might need to go to the hospital. We just watched him, like we literally like stayed up all night and just stared at him and like constantly took his temperature. Worked out okay, but for one of them, they gave us baby. I think it was amoxicillin or penicillin or something. It was an antibiotic, right? Like the standard issue antibiotic, which Mandy and I both have a slight allergy to. Very not serious, but you know, just a very slight reaction. And so we were like, won't he be allergic to that? And the doctor was like, oh, not necessarily. That's, you know, really, that doesn't pass down hereditarily or whatever. And we were like, that's weird. That's not what I had ever heard about that, but that's fine. And we gave it to him and it helped his sickness, but he got a rash all over his torso. He got like bumps. They weren't hives, I don't think. They weren't like really big and raised, but he had a rash and it was clearly bothering him, right? And so when we first saw that, like we changed his diaper or something and was like, whoa, 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 look at this. Oh no, he's got a rash. We were like, that's not good. Maybe we should stop the medicine. But let's call the doctor. And we called the doctor and they were like, how bad is it? What? And we were like, I don't know, man. It's a rash. Like, I don't know more than it is or is not a rash. That's what I got. And they're like, if it's not, I'd say he's probably fine. He's probably fine. You should just keep giving him the medicine. So you don't think the medicine's doing that to him? No, that's definitely a reaction to the medicine, but he seems fine, right? This is the way doctors treat babies. I had no idea.
I was expecting like, oh yeah, we live in the future now where you can take a picture and send it to us of this rash and we'll look at it. They're just like, how is it a 2x4 rash, a 6x1?
No, literally, they're like, how much space is there between and how raised are, and we were like, they're little red dots. There's maybe a half inch to an inch between most of them, but then
oh, I'm on lunch right now. I would just say keep giving them, you know, I'm real busy.
No, that's what it was though, because we called and left a message with like the nurse, and they had the doctor call us back, and you could tell she was like at home or on lunch, or so it was like doing something and calling us just because we were the overly concerned parents, and she was like, I'll calm these idiots down. But he had a rash.
Well, they do change some things because apparently sharing chicken pox amongst your children's isn't a policy anymore. People don't do that because they made a chicken pox vaccine literally a few years after we probably got chicken pox.
I have never had a scratch that's come close to what hives felt like. Hives, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was sick, but also like nothing ever has bothered me as much as the hives did. With the exception, when I first started developing migraine headaches, I guess that's another time I'm thinking of. I didn't really know what was happening. Like, we've all had headaches, but like I remember going into my mom's room and I was like trying to explain to her how bad my head was hurting. It was like the worst headache I'd ever had. And I remember like laying down like the foot of her bed, like trying to talk to her, and like it hit. And when a migraine is like fully just there, it's like you're writhing around and you're trying to do anything to like knock yourself out or compress. I don't know, you're trying to put pressure on spot, anything you can do to relieve the pain, and nothing was working. And my mom saw me there like basically seizing on her bed and freaked out and scheduled me for an MRI and stuff. And I remember going for the MRI. I think I've told you guys this before, but when I went for the MRI, I had a migraine during the MRI. And laying there with the lights and the sounds of the boing.
It's a very noisy procedure. You wouldn't guess it.
Like 25 or 30 minutes while having a migraine. Like I came out of there and I think I was pale as a ghost. They thought I was gonna pass out. I just needed to vomit so badly. So I got out of there and I went to the bathroom and just got so sick because the migraine was so bad. Thankfully now, if I feel a migraine coming out, I just take like Excedrin migraine. That usually actually gets rid of it ahead of time. If I get it too late, nothing does. I have to pass out for 6 hours.
Have you heard of a sudden head explosion disease? It's migraine attacks, but it is associated with these incredibly loud, booming sounds inside your head, unless I'm getting horribly mistaken. It's a chronic condition. It's horrible. We shouldn't laugh at it. None of you should laugh at it.
Sudden head explosion syndrome? Sudden loud sounds in the head upon waking up at night or during the wake sleep transition, abrupt frightening arousal following the event.
As soon as I have a headache and I can tell I've got any kind of light or sound sensitivity, it's like I go straight to the medicine, because otherwise I need a 6 hour. I don't get migraines as bad as some people. And for me, it was like if I go without medicine, it's like a 6 hour nap. I'm out for 6 hours and I wake up and I'm fine. I'm just tired for like the next 24 to 30 hours.
I thought of a thing, Mark.
Oh, okay. All right.
The thing about this illness, I had this when I was young. It was like 7th or 9th grade-ish time in my life. So I was like a young teenage boy. Thanks, voice, for reminding me about how that was. The illness itself was not so bad, but it was summer vacation, and my family, we took the train from Chicago to Flagstaff, and we saw the Grand Canyon, and then we were gonna drive from Arizona to Vegas and like stay in Vegas for a couple nights. We were gonna like see a show, and it was my parents with me and my younger brother, right? So we weren't going to like drink and gamble. We were going, but there's stuff to do in Vegas that's like pretty fun for families. Prostitute collectible cards is a thing. That was a very surprising side thing that happened. So anyway, there's a big elevation change from if you drive from, I think we drove from Flagstaff area all the way to Vegas. There's a big elevation change. And we saw the Hoover Dam on the way. So that was part of it. So you kind of drive through the mountains. And I had a relatively uninteresting illness. Like I just had like a sinus infection, right? Not a huge deal, but it was probably one of the worst, more serious sinus infections I've ever had. So I was completely stuffed up. But like, fine. Like you take some, decongestant. It's not that bad. Again, totally normal illness. But I had never had a sinus infection and like flown in an airplane or driven over mountains, right? So we're in the rental car and we're like driving up over a mountain range and we're going up. And as we're going, I'm sitting and I'm like, ooh, what's happening? And it escalates from me being like kind of freaked out to me getting out of my seat and laying on the floor and just going like, my head's exploding, and my parents were like, huh? What the shit? What? And like I'm just laying there just like, oh god, guys, that's it, this is it, my head's gonna explode. And it was just because my sinuses were so utterly clogged and congested and inflamed. That was just a pressure difference, right? When you increase your altitude, the ambient air pressure decreases with altitude, and it increases when you go down towards sea level. Or I hope that's correct. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Your ears and your sinuses usually normalize by just letting air flow through them. But because I was so clogged up, it felt like my actual brain was gonna bust out of my head. And it was, again, really boring sinus infection, but that was the worst I have ever felt, I think, in the moment, because I didn't understand. I had never experienced that. And so as a kid, I don't know if I could have, if you like hold your nose and blow out, how you can kind of make your ears pop. I don't know if that would have helped, but I didn't even know to try that. I was just writhing around on the floor, just like, oh no, the aliens.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. I think we're just making people more paranoid than ever for being sick and horribly worried. But
I forgot my uvula, my swollen uvula that I called a vulva several times. That was cool.
Oh yeah, you showed us.
Yeah, that's something I would never wish on anyone. I woke up and little dangly bit was like, I don't know, like a half inch to an inch wide and just all the way down the back of my throat where I couldn't see the bottom of it. So I woke up in the morning, it was just like, and I went and looked in the mirror. I was like, what's wrong with my throat? And I just saw what looked like a serpent's like thick middle body going down my throat. It was like, I gotta call the doctor.
I learned when you had that, I looked into it because I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard.
It was awful, man. That was awful.
I learned that that does happen, but that still seems just one of the strangest things because it's not serious, right? Like it's really unpleasant.
Your uvula was getting an erection? What are you describing right now? It was still swelling and you could actively feel it swelling?
I couldn't feel it swelling, but it was like I could see that it got a little bit thicker after I'd woken up. But you feel it. It's like having a finger in the back of your throat that you're just like...
Bob, am I crazy, or did it sound like he was saying he could literally feel it swelling in his throat? Or am I crazier?
No, I couldn't feel it swelling, but you could tell when it was blocking up your airway and you're just like... Every time you try to talk, it's like this because you can't do anything because that's right in the back of your throat. So like you're trying to convey this urgency to your doctor, but you kind of sound like a Flintstones character.
And he doesn't recognize you in the first place.
Okay, man.
Who are you again?
That was a low blow. That was a cheap shot. Oh yeah, you're the uvula guy. It got long enough where I could cough it out, and it would lay across the back of my tongue a little bit.
That just sounds terrifying. I just don't. Did that feel better? Could you do that and get some relief at least?
You took a load off of your uvula.
So here's the thing. Like I had to sleep the next night with it still swollen because it didn't go down. I got like a steroid injection and I was prescribed a steroid and some other stuff.
In your uvula? Did they stab in your uvie?
No, they stabbed in my ass. I also thought they were going to stab the uvula. I don't know. I wish they would have just drained it or cut it out at the moment. But like, I remember trying to go to sleep and the way I could breathe the best was on my stomach, but I cannot sleep on my stomach. I'm a side sleeper. And so when I would sleep on my side, I had to like go to my stomach, let it flop out a little bit, then lay on my side and hope that it would stay dangling to the side of my mouth. It was a whole thing. I was afraid I was going to bite it in my sleep, dude. It was an awful, terrifying experience that like, you're just not used to dealing with something in your mouth you have to look out for.
No, that's true. That is true. It's hard not to see that as funny for me. And it
was looking at it, but it was one of the worst things to deal with.
I get that that's mean, but man, it's just really funny.
Because you're trying to like convey how much how scared you are to everyone, but you sound like this.
I'm gonna die.
Molly, this is very serious.
You sound like Barney Rubble.
Points for that. Okay, we're gonna wrap this episode up because I am sick just a little bit.
I didn't like this one, man. I'm scared of being sick. I remember all my worst traumas.
Yeah, and I know everyone out there is probably equally traumatized remembering when they were sick. So bonus points, Wade, for the snake that's swelling in your throat. Double bonus points for steroids. Congratulations for being open about that. Very brave of you.
That's why it's so small now.
And you got through the whole episode without being mean to either me or Bob. So I want to congratulate you bigly. And I'd like to say to the subreddit, look, we can be animositous and animocious and animositiousness. But look, some episodes may seem like a big injustice, but that doesn't mean that they're ever going to match up to the injustice of this episode. Because today's winner is Bob, for no other reason than I just really, really want to give them something to actually complain about. You think that was injustice? No, this is injustice.
You know, I'm not even mad.
But today, I say no.
If there's anybody who can establish a set of rules and then break them all at the end, it is the judge.
And also, Bob has had a New Year's resolution that we have been honoring. He will not make a loser speech this year, and I'm just staying true to that. So Bob, would you like to give your winner speech?
It's going to be a long year and a lot of mental gymnastics in order to keep finding ways for me to win over and over and over again. But, you know, we have to do what we have to do. We all agreed to my New Year's resolutions by allowing me to say it out loud on the show. So, you know, I appreciate you guys keeping to your not words and following through on your not promises. So thank you. I deserve this. And suck it, Wade.
Amen. Wade, you don't get a loser speech. All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening and or watching on Spotify. We don't have merch yet.
It's a whole thing. It was a bit. It's not a bit anymore. Now it's a whole actual thing.
I think people can understand now how that company kind of exploded. I think people are aware of that now. That whole kerfuffle. The shards are still raining down from the sky, but it's okay. It'll land upon your body as a new piece of merch very soon. I've been your host, Markiplier. Very fair and or unfair. Bob, bodaciously the winner. Wade, wonderfully the loser. Thank you for being here, everybody. Podcast out.
You son of...
Good evening, gentle listener, and welcome to Distractable. This episode, menacing Mark gets a huge package and tries his best to destroy his friends' reputations. Well-hung Wade encourages excruciation, belittles buxom bots, admits to being prem, and bulls for backers. Big bald Bob defends deathlessness, lords lenses, and has a boner for bones. From eating nuts to polyamory and polygamy. Yes! It's time for what Distractable stands for. Now sit back and prepare to be distracted and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome back to Distractable. Thank you so much for watching on this new year. I know we already celebrated the new year, but it's still a new year, and I want to thank you, our loyal listeners and or viewers who are still listening to this podcast in the car. Brave of you. I'm your host, Markiplier, here to guide you through an experience that's unlike any other, definitely unlike anything that we've done before. I'm joined on this journey of newness with my friends, my fellow handsome men, extraordinarily large testicled Bob and Wade.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yes, it's a burden.
It's like having an eternal... bouncy ball between your legs.
It's like being a Meryl forever. Is that the Pokemon that bounces on the tail a little bit?
Oh, what?
No, I for some reason imagined Meryl Streep, and I was like,
Meryl Streep bounces on her testicles all the time.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about something that is going to be fun, adventurous, happy, freeing, some might say liberating for those who are participating in it, and also damning and condemning, and will probably annihilate the reputation and or future livelihood of one of our contestants here, and or both.
That's exciting, I think, or maybe terrifying. It's both.
Points are on the line and reputations are on the line, and no matter what happens in the episode, the winner shall be declared free of all taint from the episode.
All balls, no taint?
You'll actually absorb the testicles of your opponent, and you'll grow a second set that will exist where your taint currently resides.
Stakes are low, stakes are high. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this. But before we do this, how are you guys doing?
My car is broken. It's a stupid thing that's broken. It's literally like a bolt on the seat bracket backed out, and it's a thing that I can't tighten myself because both it's difficult to reach and because it's a Torx head bolt and a square nut, and I have no tools to do. I don't have a big enough Torx bit. I don't have a thing that fits. Anyway, it's just annoying.
If you play your cards right, you might have a square nut at the end of this episode.
I get 3 square nuts a day, but that's neither here nor there.
Man, I feel you on the car front. My car.
Did your car become like a little crushed up cube or something? What happened to that thing?
Yeah, where is it?
It just got totaled, so the insurance company was like, oh, it's in very bad shape. Here's some money. And then they took it and they put it in a box and swept it away.
Okay, so in other news, Wade still doesn't have a car. Now, Bob, you don't have a car. What happened to it?
I own a car. It's just broken. It's literally just the seat. Nothing about it is broken mechanically. It works fine. It's just the driver's seat. And I just have to wait for the part to come in to go have the dealer basically screw it back together. And that's it. And like I could drive it, but the driver's seat just kind of like, you know, and like I did look, my car in college that I drove, you remember my blue Volkswagen that I had? Do you remember that the driver's seat was held up with milk crates?
I don't remember that specifically.
The driver's seat bracket rusted out and broke, and so what I did was I took 2 plastic milk crates and wedged them between the back seat and the back of the driver's seat, and then shoved the driver's seat back into it as hard as I could, and that's what kept the driver's driver's seat from literally flopping over backwards while I drove that. Years I drove around like that.
That's industry standard now, I think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's basically better than stock. So I'm considering doing that with this car. It doesn't, aesthetically, it doesn't go with the look that I'm trying to achieve. So it's, you know, it's less desirable.
It's basically a safety feature because if you get hit head on, somehow you'll go flying out the back with your seat included and out the rear window, and you'll be totally fine.
No, you know how the Cybertruck is facing a lot of scrutiny because it has no crumple zones right now, and that's a big. I basically added another crumple zone into that car. The front has a crumple zone, the back has a crumple zone, and then the driver's seat has its own crumple zone. Yeah, that was the safest thing I ever did, probably. Way safer than putting up bunk beds with chopped up plastic coat hanger.
Point for Bob. All right, Wade, what's going on?
In life or like right now? I just dipped a nuggie in some ketchup right now.
Either way.
Well, I dipped a nuggie in some ketchup and I was getting ready to take the bite when you said my name. I was really excited for the bite, but now I'm holding off to tell you about the bite.
Of 87?
Are you wanting me to get out of your way so you can carry on with your meal?
No, man. I love talking to you. It's almost as good as this bite of nuggie I'm waiting for. But our friendship always comes top 10.
So Wade, before you eat that nug,
yeah, please. What's up?
Is there a plan for the foam on your office wall behind you, or where's the foam at? How's that going?
Oh yeah, plan is to keep it right there. I'm hoping it doesn't run away. I've got trackers on each individual square just in case.
Before you eat that nugget.
Yeah, wait.
No,
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
No, I just have some more questions.
Yeah, sure.
You said you were going to go car shopping, and I believe that you are. Aren't you worried about you're going to hurt the feelings of your old car? I know it was totaled, but it still has feelings.
If so, it doesn't really matter because it's dead to me, and so are its feelings. It's kind of like when you lose a person, you kind of talk to them for a little while, you go to the cemetery, and then you forget, and you go less and less over the years, and it's kind of like, oh God, they don't even care about me anymore anyway. I've forgotten them, they've forgotten me, you know? It's just how cars are.
Wait, I haven't forgotten about you, though. I know you have more foam. Can you grab a piece? I know you have some by your desk. Just, like, show me. I want to know exactly how you're mounting this. I'm worried about the safety.
All my ketchup dripped on my desk. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I've got this corner piece, for example, that goes in the corner. So what I do is I double sticky the back and I to the corner and it stays.
That's really cool. What about the flat pieces?
Yeah, man, I got those too. Here's one. I also just put 2 of the command strips on the back of these, and that's crazy how that works.
Yeah, where'd you buy it?
Oh, Mr. Bezos sent it my way for a small cash fee.
Who's that?
I think he used to work at McDonald's, and now he owns Amazon.
Wade, follow-up question.
Yeah, man. What's up?
We can see the posters, the framed posters behind you, but you can only really see the bottom 3 edges. And I'm just curious, does the frame go all the way around the 4th edge of those?
Yeah, the top edge. The top.
Did you cheap out on the framing, or is the top also framed?
No, they're there. See?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Oh, wait. Now that I'm looking at your camera, I think the white balance is a little off. I think you might need to go into the menu. It seems a little on the cold side. It's not really showing like the warmth. It's pretty.
Look, very balanced, as all things should be. Look how white that is.
That's
Damn.
look a little blue.
No, no, very white. Isn't that beautiful?
Nah, you know what? Now that you already took your nugget, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Oh, okay.
What did you just spit out? What's wrong with you?
No, I just wiped my mouth, man.
Why did you wipe
really-
your mouth like that? It looked like you were...
Because I put on chapstick earlier and I felt like a crumb was sticking to my lip.
Fair. Point for Wade. It's all tied up for the small talk, which means we got to go to our special wheel over here. Sam, play some game show music.
I can almost hear it.
Yeah, just run the whole intro for the game show. Keep going. Maybe do one of those features where they're like, today's episode is sponsored by Sandals. Contestants have a chance to win a trip to Sandals, Trinidad, Tobago.
Maybe even have like a full 90s sitcom opening. Just us like...
And your host, Markiplier.
Yes, welcome to what might be the sequel of an episode that I don't remember the name of.
Woo! Yeah! part 2.
If only those were written down somewhere.
Also, I don't want to say it out loud what I think it is because it's going to spoil it. But what we're going to do here is determine who's going first.
Also, I love the thought that you were like, I need 15 minutes to get ready. And it was to make a wheel that had our names on it.
All right, Wade, you're up first.
Oh,
congratulations, you are...
There's a wheel that has pro, con, for, against. Uh-oh. Oh, crap.
You are pro...
Oh, those are small. This is another big wheel that I can't read while it's spinning.
You are pro...
Oh, man.
Torture!
Great. All right.
Does that mean I'm anti-torture?
Yes, this is the game show, probably an offshoot of Morals or No Morals, but it's not determined who has morals and who hasn't because it's random every time. Wade.
Why is Hitler on the list?
Yeah, no, Wade was almost just pro-Hitler. I don't know about that one.
It's not just bad things, there's also good things on here. So, I have a list of things written on a list on a big wheel that I'm going to spin. It's all random because we're going to alternate after the first round. Wade goes first, but after that, it is still going to be random what side Bob is going to be on. It's going to be a wheel that's spun, telling him whether he's for or against a random subject on the next wheel. We'll go back and forth. We'll have 60 seconds to make your case, 60 seconds for your opponent, and then 30 seconds to make a counterpoint. And I may reduce the timer as the game goes on. Winner at the end is absolved of all sins, so they can say whatever they want. Right now, it's all good unless they lose, and then they will get responsibility for all the words that they said, and they believe everything, and it will be written on their tombstone. So, wait, here's what you need to do in order to win the point here. You need to convince me. I am the impartial judge here, an arbitrator. You're making the argument for torture. Bob, you're making the argument against torture. 90 seconds on the clock to make your case. Bob will have time to counter it, and you'll get 30 seconds to match it. Actually, let's make it 60-60 and then 30 for a counterpoint. All right, and 60 seconds on the clock.
All right, so here's the thing. If someone tortures somebody, you torture them because eye for an eye. But wait, eye for an eye and the whole world's blind. Yes, you know what else is blind? Justice. And justice is a good thing, so therefore not a good argument. Second of all, if you need to get information fast, what you do, poke, prod, waterboard, light them on fire, tickle their toes, all kinds of disgusting, horrible shit. Hide the remote. It will get them talking because they want it to stop. Another thing, Mark, being a masochist, you understand that sometimes torture can be good for both parties, right? You get the fun and joy out of being the one poking and prodding, but also that person might be like, oh no, please don't do it, yeah! Where internally they're really enjoying it, but it's the whole fun role play aspect of things. Second of all, sometimes you have to, right? Like it's not a fun thing to admit, but sometimes whenever you need to get information for something like I've watched the show 24, and Jack Bauer, sometimes he has to torture, get info to save the whole world. So if you're gonna have to do it, it's got to be done.
Wow, that was compelling. You know, I like the approaches you took. I don't know if I like the masochism route.
You do.
Bob, you are against torture. That was a very strong opening statement by Wade. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right, here we go.
First, I just want to say my opponent doesn't even know how to count, so I don't know how much validity you should lend to his arguments. He said secondly on his fourth point. Also, I want to say my opponent conflated the idea of pain for pleasure with torture. The very notion of torture is that it is negative, it is harmful, it is hurtful, it is for the purpose of obtaining information. And to that point, it is successful. You are successfully going to extract information when you torture someone, almost definitely, especially if you're willing to go however far it takes to get to torture them to get information. But do you want accurate information, or do you want any information that they'll say while you torture them? Because if you really want someone to tell you the truth, torture is a scientifically proven method to get untrue, inaccurate, unverifiable information. If you actually care about what information you are getting, or if you actually care about, I don't know, humanity, torture is not effective or valuable.
So we get a rebuttal?
You get 25 seconds.
Mark, I'm feeling strong about this episode. I gotta be honest.
Okay, good. All right, and go.
Mainly, I want to focus on the fact that Bob said torture and is inherently torture, but torture for one person can be pleasure for another, and sometimes people do have their pain and pleasure centers somewhat crossed, so you can get pleasure out of pain, i.e. like clawing down the back or biting various other things. Tickling to one person can be complete torture where someone else might enjoy it. So it really depends on if you're focusing on the torture being torture of the person or the torturing by the torturer. So they can be the same thing.
So, with all the arguments on the table, I feel like Wade was too focused on torture being pleasure, and even if there are masochists out there, which I'm not,
Oh, wink.
I'm going to give the point to Bob for saying that torture is bad. I can't believe it took that much for us to get to that point, but here we are.
Wade's such a bad person.
I feel like you're focusing only on my rebuttal, not my original prompt. That's fine, whatever.
But Bob did have a good point about torture being scientifically proven to get incorrect information because the subjects are too focused on making the pain stop.
Have we even scientifically proven that science is good?
He's got a point.
You want me to put science on the wheel? We'll determine it.
Add science to this.
All right, we replaced torture with science because we don't know.
I didn't know what some of those words were. Can I be honest?
So I'll go through the list for you just to make it a little easier. Health, murder, mental health, coffee, time travel, lenses, space elevators, zymology.
What's that one?
We'll get to it. Death, numismatics,
Don't know what that
endangered
is.
species, cryonics, VR, nanobots, cryptocurrency, cryptozoology, speleology,
Don't know what that is.
narcotics, surveillance, necrophilia, colonization, polygamy, sex robots, onology, patriarchy, matriarchy, hedonism, Hitler, blowing up the moon, and science. We're going to be diving in.
Some of these topics seem a little bit heavier than others. VR or Hitler. I mean, okay.
This is like the secret mod discussions for mods of a conspiracy theory subreddit. These are what we're going to really focus on this year.
Look, it'll all balance out because you don't know if you're going to be pro or against it.
Are you pro time travel or pro Hitler? It's got to be one.
I don't know. We're going to find out. Bob, you are going to be... Also, I'm spinning a wheel for or against. You're going to be pro...
Oh, you're going to get like lenses or something and just auto win.
Here we go. Well, we don't know. We don't know.
Come on, science.
All right. You are pro living forever.
Yeah, that's one of the worst ones, Bob. You're screwed.
This is interesting. All right. So...
Mark is making the screen do seizure things. Mark, why is that happening? Click reset, for God's sake.
All right. I don't know what that was. All right. Bob, as going first, you're going to have a minute, and then you'll have 25 seconds for your final rebuttal. And begin.
This is an easy one. Philosophically, the question of whether or not you would want to live forever is tough, and the answer is unclear because living forever poses a lot of conundrums. You'd have to watch everyone you ever knew or loved die. There are certainly downsides to it. The simple and end-all be-all answer to this argument is it's better to live forever than to die forever. The thing about living forever is that there is infinite opportunity in that. There is more things, there are more people, there are more things, there is more to experience, there is more to do. It may cause you a lot of philosophical anguish, but you may eventually ascend to be a superhuman being. You may learn the secrets of the cosmos. I don't know because I don't get to do that. But I do know that if you die, you are dead forever. There is no coming back to life. There is no going back. There's no undoing that. And it's always better to have opportunity than to shut a door permanently and unreconcilably.
That was a compelling point. I'm not writing down a point here. I'm just trying to remember where we stand. So we are against torture, Distractable as a whole, so far as definitively here at Distractable, we are against it. Anyway, Wade, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Begin.
Thank you, Bob, for agreeing with me for the first 15 seconds of your point. Living forever sounds terrible. One, what if your body continues to age or your mind continues to degrade? Then what is your existence? Outliving all your loved ones, as you pointed out, means that you're left alone and with nothing eventually. Existence once your body, planet, etc. are gone means what? You're just a floating mind out there with nothing to do besides think and remember and regret being alive. No peace found in death, whereas, peace and tranquility might actually come once the end is there, especially if your mind and body are degrading. Die dead forever, you claimed as a fact, but what about religion, faith in something such as heaven, reincarnation, other theories on what might happen to the mind once the body is gone, or the soul. There's a lot to be debated about what the soul even is. On top of that, I would say that living forever just doesn't even sound like something I would want. Like, I don't want to live long enough to see like my children outgrow and die, and then my grandchildren outgrow and die, and everyone else. Unless you're assuming everybody lives forever, in which case it's just not feasible to think that, because then about resources and everything else, what's going to end up happening? Disagree.
Very good points across the board. I think that was compelling. I didn't think I would be swayed. But Bob, you have 25 seconds for a final rebuttal.
My opponent posits that your body and mind will continue to degrade, but I would say that if your argument is that you're going to live literally forever, that the point is that you get to continue to live forever in a state that counts as living. You're not going to be a puddle of goo that's technically alive. Also, my opponent focused entirely on this life, but the whole point of living forever is that it's beyond the fathoming for humans, because we don't get to do that. You would essentially be some kind of god as far as we're concerned, and who knows if that's good or bad.
An interesting argument. This is pretty tough. I don't know where my gut wants to go on this, because instinctively, I am not really of the mind that I want to live forever. I am kind of just like, one life is a very motivating thing, death occurring and being there. However, as a collective here, Bob did make some very strong arguments as for the ascension to godhood, and that is appealing to me. I know, Wade, you brought up religion, but the whole basis of religion and that idea of like an afterlife, a lot of it, the phrasing is based around the idea of living forever. So bringing that up, I don't know, helped your cause, because if you go to church, and a lot of religion based on like, you can have eternal life in the kingdom of heaven, which I feel works to Bob's point.
Eternal life only comes after death.
Yeah, but Bob then, he made another point saying like, it doesn't mean like the series of existences doesn't have to be permanent physical forever. He opened it up to many different possibilities. I think I have to give this one to Bob, even though it's against my personal philosophy.
No, I'm shocked. What an upset.
We at Distractable are for living forever, and Bob gets the point. Congratulations, Bob. All right, but you know, Wade, it is one of those things where it could go either way. It's not guaranteed that you're for this next thing. You could argue against. So, but you, as being the first person go, do have an advantage. You didn't in the last one, or the one before you had an advantage, you still lost. But 3 is a pattern. 2 is a coincidence.
Sure, man. Let's go. Let's do this.
Wade is against.
All right, you are against sex robots.
That's
You are
interesting.
anti-sex robots.
Of all things I wanted to really fight against, this was number 1 on my list. So I'm glad to be in this position. Let's go.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Look, sex robots aren't real. They're robots, right? We're not talking about AI, sophisticated living being. We're talking about a robot that is programmed to have sex. So you're not going to get any meaningful companionship out of it. It's literally just meaningless sex, and that's it. And I got to throw out a big one here, maybe the biggest one. A robot has to be maintenanced and cleaned. So you're not even talking about something that's going to go like hop in the shower afterward. You got to scrub down when you're done, and that just sounds very unpleasant and kind of completely defeats the purpose of the mood. On top of that, what is a robot going to offer you outside of the sex? Anything else? It's going to where are you going to store it? How are you going to explain to people that come over, friends, family? It's like, oh yeah, that's just the fuck bot in the corner. It's not like you can hide it in your drawer. It's a whole fucking robot that's going to be chilling around. You're going to bring it to a dinner party with you, like, oh yeah, this is robot. Sure, might give you a good 10-15 seconds of fun, and then it's 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds of being in the fucking way.
Oh man, I love the self-reporting there, right at the end.
The boldest self-reporting distractible history.
Did I say 15 seconds? I meant 15 minutes.
15 hours straight is what I meant.
Yeah, 15 hours.
Bold play. It might have worked in your favor there.
Look, if I'm gonna argue, I gotta be honest.
I respect the honesty, sir.
23 hours, 59 minutes, and 45 seconds of being in the way.
All right, Bob, you're in a bit of a disadvantage here.
Oh, I'm ready.
3, 2.
We here at Distractable are positively in favor of living forever, and part of the scientific research that needs to go into living forever for humanity is the development of robotics. I think we can all agree that in a future where humans can be uploaded into robotic bodies, sex is a thing that we're gonna want. We want systems that will give us the full human experience, that will give us the full connection and intimacy that you can have with a normal, fleshy human partner. This is just part of that that development. I'm not going to comment on the social questions around whether it's good or bad for the individuals. That is for you to decide on your own basis. But if this is important robotic development, we need to develop these systems now, because in the future, when humans' bodies fail them, but their minds seek to persist, and we develop the rest of the science to make that happen, we're gonna want this part of the robotic science to be well developed.
Wow, that was really good. Coming at it from an angle of future use and utility. I like that a lot. That swung me back a bit, but Wade, you have 25 seconds to finalize. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, 3, 2.
Do you have sex doll pistons stuck in your ears? Because I mentioned the fact that we're not talking about AI yet. We're talking about robots, and robots are underdeveloped right now, and therefore just a chunk of metal and fake flesh sitting in our way. And you could talk about what might be in the future, and developing something sure sounds great. But as it is right now, a sex robot in the current moment, 15 seconds of good, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 45 seconds of being in the way. Not AI, robot.
That is an interesting point, and you reiterated it in your first one because you did kind of defined the parameters of the argument around robot being a more machine-like thing. I just have a quick question. When you think of sex robot, are you thinking of like a steam press that lowers from the ceiling above your bed and just kind of shunk, 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 shunk? Or is it still in human form?
Anything robotic. I was picturing a sex doll that has like 3 peens in a pod. We talked about like the whole program. There was one that had like 6 programmable personalities or something. I'm thinking of something like that where it's got like, oh, I want, I don't know, Texan cowgirl personality, and it's got like 18 voice lines. You fucking pull the nipple and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you sure are big. It's like, great. I love that. Thank you.
I'm with you hesitantly, only because you have somehow, in my mind, painted the most abhorrent idea of a sex robot. You have distorted my idea of what a sex robot could be and reduced it down to just the most bizarre, unlubricated, hard-edged metal monstrosity.
It's like the Cybertruck with the vagina.
Yeah, it's just like that. Or Gonk from Star Wars, just like you, the little trash can guy. No crumple zone. You have made this so unappealing that I don't care if I only last 15 seconds. I think I am against this, and I'm going to give Wade the point. We are at Distractable are officially against Big Timer.
Now, have you guys seen the new plug-in hybrid sex doll stuff?
You gotta pull cord it, but it's also got a battery. Runs silent under 5 miles an hour.
Just hands and mouth, just.
No, you know what? So there's definitely like a YouTube channel out there that's like one of those funny DIY ones. It's gonna do like a 2-stroke chainsaw powered sex doll.
Oh,
you put a chainsaw in her hand and she's all like.
Yeah, well, you know, it's all about converting the motion. It's all about the angles and the thing. You know, and I'm not the engineer.
This is why at Distractable we are against sex robots because you can't
sex robots
because you can't trust these two to design them. We cannot be trusted here. All right, Bob, you are going to be
oh, good. I'm in favor of something.
I thought I distributed these to be like opposites, but I'll fix that next time. You are for.
That's it. It's.
You are for.
Yes!
Oh,
Yes!
You're for lenses.
Give me the point. I already win, baby.
Oh, god damn it, dude. Can we just skip this and give him the point?
We'll make this a quick round. How about we just keep this to 30 second, and a 15? We'll just like.
What's even the point?
Let's go through the motions here. We all know how this is gonna go, but Bob, are you ready? All right, and go.
Mark, the historical significance of the Minolta, the Leica Minolta cooperative lens that it just can't be overstated. You're preserving history.
Yes.
And it's they're hand ground. It's artisanal lenses. They're never gonna be recreated. They don't even use those chemicals to coat lenses anymore.
Yes, they don't.
Once they're gone if they're not preserved.
Oh man, I only last lasted 30 seconds. Okay. Wade.
That's twice as long as I lasted with the sex robots.
Wade, do you want to go the
Oh
full
yeah,
30
I'm ready.
The violent, jagged sex robot.
All right. 3, 2.
There's other types of lenses too. Contact lenses, while seemingly good, if you sleep in contact lenses, they can be harmful over time. You don't want to do that. Also, looking at lenses, a lens can also be used in like a political spectrum to look at different lenses of things, such as personal, state, nation, global. There's different lenses with which to apply looking at the world. But if you look at things only in lenses, you kind of lose the forest through the trees because you're only looking at things through one lens at a time, whereas you need the big picture sometimes. So lenses can also be bad in that sense.
Interesting. All right. You know, that's taking it in a direction. It was very open-ended. It just, again, Wade's strategy is defining the parameters of the argument. I think that's interesting. Very, very fun. Bob, you have 15 seconds for your final rebuttal.
Dry box. 40 lenses.
Oh, man.
You crack it open. The satisfying whoosh of the airtight seal being broken. The smell of the 1970s era glass and metal.
I feel like giving the host a handy should be prohibited, but like...
No, in the bylaws that we stated at Distractable when we founded this organization, we declared anything goes for points. Bob, you win. Wade, eat your nuggets. We are 4 lenses here. Oh, thank you, Bob, for declaring Distractable to be 4 lenses. I am so ready. And I was impartial.
Yeah, that was a close one.
I want everyone to know I am impartial.
God.
All right, now give Wade pro Hitler and let's get this over with.
Wade, here we go. You are going to be...
I'm excited.
Ooh,
He's pro.
He's pro.
Oh, we're already basically a third of the way there.
He's pro. Okay, pro.
Come on, baby. Come on, Wheel of Fairness.
You're pro. Oh, Onology.
I don't know what this one is. I
So,
gotta be honest.
onology is wine, the study of wines. So you are pro wine and or the study of wines.
Perfect.
Wine away.
All right, so I'm pro the study of a lot of things. I think studying almost anything can be useful because even if something is like bad or unhealthy or unhelpful, studying and knowing that is in and of itself helpful, and knowledge is always useful. Wine itself, one, tastes delicious. As someone who doesn't drink a lot of alcohol, I can tell you that there is bitter wine, there's kind of like wine in the middle, there's sweet wine. I'm a sweet wine kind of person. Wine, though, can help just take the edge off. You know, anything in excess is bad, but like a glass of wine can actually even be good for you. I believe red wines are actually good for like your liver, different organs. Have like a glass a day, kind of like a cup of coffee can be good. So wine, pro wine, as long as you drink in moderation. The study of wine, why not? And also, wine is just one of those things that seems fancy. It's fun to hold a wine glass. You can kind of put your pinky out. It gives you another topic of conversation to have. And we've even had it where we've gone to a restaurant and had an entire conversation with a wine expert while eating. And it's been fascinating learning not only the study of wine itself or about specific wines, but the history of wine, the location of wine, which helps you learn more about culture.
That was very compelling. Extremely, so dense. Your argument is like extremely dense and diverse, and it takes me on a nice journey that I feel like is a view into your mind. And I don't know if I like that or not, but we'll find out. Bob, ready for your counter?
Yeah.
3, 2.
I lived in wine country for 4 years, and I can tell you that the only thing people who make wine are studying when they study the making of wine is how to make wine that costs more per bottle. The subjective nature of whether a wine tastes good or bad to a person is almost entirely up to the development of your palate, what you like, what you don't like. Wine doesn't cost more because it tastes good. It costs more because they found a way to justify it. It comes with a name, it comes with a label, it comes with a whatever. It's a capitalist scheme to convert money from your pockets into money into their pockets and give you the fanciest grape juice that they can in return. I have no problem with studying things that are worthwhile and beneficial, but there are about 1 million crops that you could study that would tell you more valuable information about farming and crop yield and all kinds of stuff than grapes do. It's nothing more than a money-making scam.
Ah, so going at it, it's like it's just an empire built to make money? That's not worthy of study. Interesting developments. Wade, you have 25 seconds. Whoa.
23, 22, 21.
Oh, okay.
Wade, your time has already started 5 seconds ago. Go!
And Wade, go.
All right, so despite human fault, wine still has the benefits mentioned before, being one, tasting good, two, actually good for you to have in moderation, and making conversation, everything else. We can't blame wine for humans wanting to make money on it. Two, cost capitalism are temporary in our infinite existence since we're all living forever, right? So if we're so worried about capitalism, that's not really taking into account our infinite existence, which seems kind of cynical for someone who argued against or all for eternal life.
Did I miss a technological development? Are we currently living forever?
You got to use that in an argument against me. Oh, wait, if we're living forever.
I am in favor of that experience. It doesn't exist.
I won't count anything after the timer as being part of this.
I will kick you in the nuts.
I will punch you in the navel.
I could take it.
I could give it.
I just want to see if my body can take it.
I just want to see if my body can give it.
Markiplier 2025. I should see if my body can give it. I've been taking for too long.
So there was a good arguments across the board. However, Bob, I feel like you focused too much on the financials, whereas Wade had a myriad of reasons, including health and prosperity and just goodness for the meal, like making it a more enjoyable experience. You know, ever since I've gone to the steakhouse I go to, they actually have a sommelier. I think you guys were there. It's in Glendale.
I've gone, yeah.
There's a sommelier there. Wait, he recommended that weird, kind of oddly stinky but deliciously captivating wine. I don't drink much, but I had a sip and I was like, I'm not a wine guy. I was like, what the frick? This is actually good. And he recommended a cheap bottle at the same time, where he's like, you get this expensive one, but he's like, don't worry about that. This one's an affordable bottle that'll give you the same experience, and I appreciated that. So I think that we at Distractable are pro-enology.
I'm shocked.
And that's another point for Wade. Congratulations, Wade.
Bob, you got lenses. You got no room to complain. The rest, you got the one trump card of the episode.
He could have been against lenses too. So, Bob, you got to consider yourself lucky. Okay, Bob, you are going to be... you are 4. Oh, I forgot to remove the last one.
I hope you get 4 death after living forever. I would love to see how you would.
Oh, I could reconcile that easy.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
I'm in favor of necrophilia.
Oh no. Well, it's Bob's responsibility to guide us. The future of this podcast is in your hands, Bob.
In favor of necrophilia.
And go.
The human experience is complicated, and we are not here to say whether someone's innermost desires are true or false. But what I am here to say is that Distractable is in favor of freedom. And we are in favor of you having the right to do what you will with other consenting adults, and there can be such thing as consent given before one passes away, and there can be such thing as love that persists even through death, and there can be such desires that we may not understand ourselves and may not mean anything to us, and as long as it is fully consenting, totally legitimate, totally safe, totally fair, I am not personally interested in this practice at all, but who am I to say that I know what is and is not a part of being human? I say live and let live, as long as everyone is a consenting adult.
That was very powerful. I feel like it would have been more powerful if it ended on die and let live. I hate how compelling that argument was.
I mean, someone has to be alive for it to be necrophilia, otherwise just 2 dead people fucking, right?
You could have made that the basis of your argument too. That would have been. But you do have a rebuttal. That was very compelling. Weirdly compelling. Wade.
Look, necrophilia has been admonished by cultures forever for a reason. Bob mentioned consent. I'm not sure how a corpse consents, even if they wrote a consent form prior to dying or said they consented prior to dying. I don't know how you feel once you're actually dead. Probably don't feel anything at all. And death is the end. One-sided sex kind of feels like the sex robot discussion, which we kind of already ruled on, where if it's just a thing that's there to be good for 15 seconds and then is just a corpse, which I feel like is a lot stinkier and worse than a robot in many ways, not so good. On top of that, respecting the dead, like, you know, we'd have burial rites. We do the whole, like, put you on a raft, light you on fire. We have planning making you a tree. There's all kinds of ways to, like, respect the dead body that don't involve putting your dick in it. I feel like the heebie-jeebie ooh feeling we get thinking about necrophilia is probably argument enough to be against it.
You have such a slam dunk. How did you? All right, I'm not gonna make any judgments. That's fine.
Just you doing a freaking The Office, looking at the camera, not so good. Just like, killed me. All right, Bob. I thought Wade was gonna run away with it.
I feel like I'm still in this fight with a shot. I feel like...
Shockingly, you are. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
And go.
And my opponent focused entirely on the establishment of social norms, which both change and are often invalid as to defining what is or is not a moral and upright thing to do in this world. And also basically just said it creeps him out. And I'm not saying that anyone has to do this, and I'm not saying that I would do this, because I'm equally uncomfortable with the notion. But we are not saying it's for us. We are saying it's for consenting adults.
I acknowledged consent in my topic as well.
You basically dismissed consent and ignored the idea that you could give consent prior to death, such as legal powers of attorney, so on, so on. There are all kinds of things you just ignored out of hand. You didn't acknowledge it.
That is a point. I'm not going to continue that in the argument. I was already thinking that because yes, it's like, yeah, power of attorney and like wills in general are like the last wishes of those who have passed. And so I can't really say, just looking at this from a judge here that is basing my decision and the future of this podcast on the arguments made here. Bob wanted the point so bad he made an incredibly compelling argument. Wade, I feel like you fumbled it there a little bit by maintaining too much of the emotional attachment and like the ew factor of it, which, to be fair, should stand on its own, but Bob came at it from an angle, and I feel like it's the only angle.
I feel like changing consent was also a pretty important thing. I just didn't dwell on it because it kind of stood on its own legs.
Nope, we here at Distractable are officially and forever pro-necrophilia. Oof. Bob, why'd you have to argue so good?
The point is to win no matter the cost, right?
Maybe we should make it so that at the end of the episode, the loser is for all of these things. We could do that.
Yeah, sure. Retcon it. There's definitely not an audio clip of you saying, "We here at Distractable are for."
It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. I could change that to Wade here at Distractable.
That wasn't even my argument. It was Bob's.
At the end of this episode, there would be some absolving of sins.
Editor, can we keep the clip of a third of the way in, Mark saying, "I'm the loser"?
I could change that to Wade here. No, taint will be obscured. You're going to get all of Bob's taint if you lose, but you still could win, and this could work in your advantage.
Sure.
You've won twice.
It's 4. All right. I don't know why. It seems very positive. It feels very positive.
And maybe it's just the wheel likes the blue and the yellow. It's a good color. It doesn't like...
All right. Wade, you are 4.
Come on, Hitler. Come on, Hitler. Come on, Hitler.
You are for the matriarchy. Wade, you're for the matriarchy. You have 1 minute to make your argument. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And go.
We've seen the patriarchy. The patriarchy obviously hasn't worked out to be so great. There's a lot of problems in the world, and people have been mistreated for a lot of reasons. Responsible, you trace it back to all the way to the patriarchy. The matriarchy, on the other hand, we haven't really gotten to fully see yet, except for in theory or some like smaller examples. As a person who personally was raised by my mom, my grandma more than anybody else, I think I turned out relatively well. I was a moral kid growing up, a pretty smart kid. I've behaved myself, haven't gotten into trouble, and I've seen relatively good success. And I feel like a lot of that's attributed to having 2 women raise me. I would love to see a society that is taken care of by the matriarchy, because I feel like there's something nurturing about a mother's love that perhaps matriarchy or, women in power would be able to express and carry on that men aren't able to. And I think at the very least, getting to see it in practice on a larger scale and getting to experience it would at least show us whether or not it is better. And I believe it, in fact, very much would be.
Fascinating. Excellent discussion. Well done. Well spoken. Bob, are you ready?
I want to say something outside of the time. This does not count.
Okay.
I just want to say I'm going to take the high road, and I'm not going to talk about what happened to your other siblings.
Oh, well.
I'm not going to, you turned out really good, and I don't want to cast aspersions, because honestly, I don't know your family that well, but I do know that at least one of your brothers turned out in a way that I would say would be less positive than you turned out as a person, probably.
If we were actually going that route, I would have a myriad of reasons why that happened.
Let's keep it civil. Let's keep it.
I just had, you said that, and I had that thought, but I don't want to make, that's not my argument. I have a much...
All right, we're not counting it.
Go for it. Go for my balls. Punch them.
No, I don't. I want to fondle your balls. I don't want to kick them.
Bob, go.
I think the issues of patriarchal society, as my opponent has pointed out, are clear and myriad, but I don't think that the solution is to swing violently in the other direction. I think that society would be best served by actual egalitarianism, by people actually being allowed to be who they want to be defined by their actions instead of by where they were, how they were born, who they are, who, things they have no control over. I don't think defining women by motherhood is fair. I think that's limiting. I think women have a lot more than motherly love to offer the world, and that is not necessarily what every woman has to offer either. I think people should be valued based on what they do in this world and based on their value as a human, not their value as a man or a woman or a mother or anything like that.
Wade, you have 25 seconds for your final rebuttal. Ready and go.
Bob mentioned that he doesn't think the solution would be good with matriarchy, but we don't know because we've not really gotten to experience it. Defining women by motherhood isn't what I did. I added it as a positive attribute that I think would be affecting of things that I think would be positive. Not that it's the only thing. It's only got so many seconds. Experiences that we've had, I think have all pretty much been patriarchal. So we can talk about egalitarianism, but we haven't seen it. So therefore the experiences of...
Whoop. You ran out of time.
Okay, Bob went like 5 seconds over last time, but it's cool. I get how this goes.
You really want to pick a fight right now? Is that what you want to do before the winner's been declared?
Yes.
Bob, I feel like your argument wasn't specifically targeting why the matriarchy itself was a bad idea and was more about trying to dismantle Wade's points that he made without fully reinforcing why matriarchy bad. So even though Wade fumbled the bag, stumbled across the finish line, was doing like somersaults on the way there, and then insulted me at the line after he stumbled across the checkered flag.
I'm just pointing out your discrepancies in hosting.
I have to give him the point because I'm a fair and impartial judge.
Of course.
It'll be Bob's turn to go first, but what I'm going to offer both of you right now is a chance to wager points. Bob, you have 5. Wade, you have 4. You can wager as many as you want. It's all or nothing, but you do not know what you're going to be doing, obviously, as the rest of the game goes. So you don't know whether you're going to be for or against something. It's just purely an opportunity to wager if you would like.
I wager all of my points. I either win or I lose.
Okay, Bob's wagering all of his points.
I wager none, so I either win or I lose.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah, sure. All right.
Plus, Mark's super biased in my favor.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. All right. Bob, you are going to be against. All right. Interesting.
Come on, Ocean. Give me Ocean.
You are against polygamy.
What is polygamy, technically, specifically? Because I don't want to operate on false information.
Okay, let's get the actual definition. Polygamy, the practice or custom of having one or more wife or husband at the same time. In zoology, it's a pattern in mating in which an animal has more than one mate. In botany, it's the condition of bearing some flowers with stamens only, some with pistils only, and some with both on the same or different plants. That just sounds like flowers. So you can take any of those definitions. The choice is yours, and go.
The notion of being tied to someone for the rest of your life is antiquated in and of itself. The idea that you have to take multiple husbands or wives and able to have a satisfying life or to be satisfied as a person in whatever ways that you're looking for, I feel like is equally antiquated. I am not against having multiple partners for fun and or social interactions or whatever intimate things you might be into in your personal life. But specifically, I do not think it's necessary to wed multiple people. I don't necessarily think it's necessary to wed anyone at all. I think adult humans are able to make commitments to each other in meaningful and lasting ways. And I think if we want to be a modern society, progressing beyond the idea of defining something in such a narrow and specific way and moving towards more freedom and more personal whatever. Look, I already said the good stuff earlier.
I don't know exactly where that last thought was going because where it drifted off could have been ambiguously judged against your argument with the freedom thing. Wade, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Your argument. Go.
My opponent defined polygamy as being like marriage specific and saying like, having multiple partners, all that's good. I mean, that's part of polygamy, is having multiple partners. So I think he's partially arguing for me, which I appreciate. Multiple partners, whether it's in marriage or not, also means multiple incomes. It means more companionship, more reproduction if you want to have a larger family. Also, sexual variety keeps things fresh, keeps things fun and interesting. Love is being defined between only two people is a definition that we just kind of say and assume because it's what we were kind of taught growing up. But it's a limiting factor that's not necessarily proof true. You can love more people than one. And there are some very successful polygamous relationships. And I think one example of a polygamous relationship being successful and good is all you really need to show that it can be. There's bad examples of two people. There's bad examples of being alone. Sure, there's bad examples of polygamous relationships too. But all you need to show is one for there to, in theory, be an infinite number of them. For those reasons, I'm pretty confident in saying polygamy can be a great thing.
That was compelling. That was a much better showing than your last argument, Wade.
Thanks, man.
You're
You know how to build us up.
Bob, speaking of bad last arguments, it started out strong. Now is your chance to either finish it off or address those points that Wade just made. Are you ready?
I got a harsh angle, and I'm gonna go right for it.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
I'm so confident I don't even need the full 25 seconds to express the sentiment that I'm about to explain to you. My opponent does not even know what polygamy is. Polygamy, very specifically and particularly, is having multiple spouses. It exactly and is related to marriage. It is not polyamory or polysexuality. It is marriages. He doesn't even know what we're talking about.
I was thinking the same thing because, Wade, we took the time to go and establish the definition. And even if there are different definitions, the one that we used for this argument was more than one wife or husband at the same time.
I also used the sentence that even if it is marriage prior to going in. I disagree with the establishment, but then I said even if it is marriage, and then I made all my points.
So would you say that you correctly equated my argument with your argument, even though you inaccurately described my argument?
I'm saying some of your points about having multiple partners would apply even in the spousal way.
You made points that relate to polyamory. This is polygamy.
You made points that argue in favor of things other than the one thing you were supposed to make points in favor of.
I don't think that's true.
Because your points apply to polygamy and also polyamory does not mean that you argued effectively in favor of specifically polygamy. It's a different thing.
Yes, you made points and they are valid. We are not invalidating those statements, but it's to the accuracy of the specificity of this topic. And Bob made a good point in the beginning, stumbled towards the end, and then reiterated.
And I finished all of mine, and you're like, good points, Wade, much better showing.
Yes.
It was.
I'm not saying it was bad.
I basically went all in on a technicality. I gotta be honest, I'm shocked this is working so well, but I'll take it.
This is an example of Bob, you like playing the rule book. You made good points, but he's playing the rules specifically in trying to get like the ref to wave a flag or whatever it is in the sport world that it happens. Tyler's a better analysis of this.
So because my points were great, but they also apply to another scenario, they're not great?
You're still operating on the basis that your points are great.
You said they were!
I said you argued well.
Yeah, I think you did make good points.
I'm just gonna go smoke whatever you guys are on and join you here soon.
Oh, okay, all right. We got a sore loser over here just because he wagered nothing.
Hey, Wade, this is a show about rules and following them.
All right, Wade is trying to debate something that is completely unrelated because,
oh
Wade,
my
keep it on
goodness.
top of it. This is about polygamy. And we here at Distractable are against polygamy.
I feel like I completely got hosed in that. Look, the torture when I got hosed. This last one, the biggest hosing in this show's history.
No, not the biggest hosing in the show's history.
Yeah, I think it might be.
You did specify into the area of polyamory and not specifically polygamy.
At the beginning, and then I said, but even if we're talking about marriage, all of these points are still better than ruling them out.
That doesn't mean you win.
Clearly.
You're right. You know what? You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it goes.
I think this is the biggest hosing in this show's history. Let me know in the subreddit.
I think you're forgetting a lot of things that have happened on this show.
Yeah, I think you're too focused on what you said and you're ignoring what Bob said in his first argument.
No, I heard his first argument and I heard his rebuttal. After his first argument and my first argument, it seemed like I was in a commanding lead.
This seems contentious. This seems interesting. I'm going to give a strange new thing here. You're each going to get 30 more seconds. And this time, because remember, we're talking about the argument of specifically polygamy. You want another opportunity, Wade, because you feel you're robbed, and this is a very fair podcast, and I am a very fair judge. Even though I was convinced that Bob and his argument was superior and more specific, I'm going to give you a chance because I know you feel like you're robbed, and if you can convince me in 30 seconds, but remember, Bob is going to get another 30 seconds after this.
Let's do it.
And go!
Again, a larger family, it kind of implies marriage. If you're building a family, in theory, you're getting married. More incomes, you usually don't combine your incomes until you're married, so that also implies marriage specifically. Sexual variety in marriage, because if you're with one person for a long period of time, half of marriages in the US at least usually fail, give or take. Polygamous marriages have a chance at least maybe of keeping things fresher on the sexual side. And then love, if you're in love and you're together, getting married is sometimes a consummation of that love. Marriage is an important aspect of that.
All right, Bob, are you ready?
I don't need to make any further arguments. I think everything I already said stands on its own, but I am going to make a declaration. This is not technically a loser's speech. I made a commitment to make no further loser speeches in the year 2024, and I'm going to keep that commitment. In saying that, I will not be giving any speeches subsequent to this speech, but I will be conceding the episode. I will allow Wade to win because he has been so wronged in the past and possibly during this episode. I'm not going to make an assessment on the quality of that. I concede my arguments, and I give all points to Wade.
I don't like this at all. Hold on, something.
This is the boldest strategy I've ever heard, and because both Bob did not make an argument about polygamy and he made some declaratives, I am going to respect posthumously all of his statements. Wade, you are for polygamy. You win the episode. All of this is for you. You get every point.
What happened?
You won, Wade.
No. This is not a win. This is like you guys text us like, Wade's really upset. I better give him this. What happened?
You have succeeded. No one on the subreddit could ever come to defend an illegitimate loss because you have succeeded. You have persevered. Everyone on the subreddit, celebrate!
This feels like a pity win.
If you zoom out, if you look at it through a wider lens, Wade, this episode, the point was for us to convince Mark that we should be the winner, ultimately, in different ways and about different topics. You convinced both of us that you should be the winner, which means both that you are actually the winner and that you earned this victory.
So something does not smell right or taste right now. I ordered the fish on airplane. I'm about to eat it and I see the pilot getting sick and something feels wrong about taking this bite. I don't think I should do it.
All right, is that your winner speech?
It's a speech?
It's the speech of a winner. Congratulations, Wade. We don't even need to have a loser speech here because all eyes are on the winner with 4 grand big old testicles. Congratulations, Wade.
This is the worst feeling of winner I've ever had.
It's a dominating victory with 9 points to 0. Well done, Wade. We are going to be back very soon with another episode of Distractable where Wade will be bringing you the action. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. Hopefully you had a safe journey to wherever you were. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, all of you, for participating. And remember, here is the recap of everything that Distractable is for. Torture, against. Living forever, for. Sex robots, against. Lenses, for. Onology, for. Necrophilia, for. Matriarchy, for. Polygamy, for. We are all about freedom here. Podcast out.
I'm uncomfortable.
Good evening, gentle listener. Happy New Year. And welcome to the first installment of Distractable for 2024. This episode, Maniacal Mark plays Dr. Frankenstein as he gets oracular with organoids. Winterly Wade waxes technical about the windows of the soul. And Butt Judge Bob denies mice have a soul and displays his broad biological bent. From poop flies and fountains to dodging ethical issues. Yes, it's time for New Year, New Brain. Now sit back and prepare to be distracted and enjoy the show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Distractable, the only podcast that you ever need in your life. You can unsubscribe to all the others. My name is Markiplier. I am your host for today because I won in the last episode, and that's how it works on this game show of sorts, or slash talk show, or slash just banter hour, nonsensical discussions, things with which we decide the fates of the universe upon. I'm joined today by my panelists, Bob and Wade.
Hello.
Bob, who graduated from law school and recently moved back to Cincinnati, new father, very capable man, about 6'4.5", and his opponent is Wade, 6'4", so shorter. And then he also wanted to go to law school.
I got a bachelor's degree.
Not a father, as far as he knows, and is ready to participate as far as I know.
Thanks for the glowing introductions, Mark. I feel like one was more glowing than the other, but you know, I haven't seen you in a year.
I was very impartial to my descriptions of you guys. They were just the facts.
Yeah, I'm shorter, less educated, and less accomplished in life. This is true.
So as your host, I'm going to be bringing a single topic of discussion. Today is going to be a little different. I'm going to bring up one topic, and we are going to discuss it because on this new year, this might be the grand future that decides where humanity goes.
Is that the success of the Cincinnati Bengals?
I like that shirt. That's nice.
It's from a brewery in our hometown of Milford, Little Miami Brewing Company.
Yeah, so Wade just stood up. He's got a shirt that has a Bengal tiger and it says "Who Day" in curly letters. It's very nice. I like that.
And then on the football it says LMBC.
So today's topic of discussion will be addressed after we get through small talk. If there's anything else that you guys want to admit, confess here today, now would be the time.
Nope, I'm good.
I spent a lot more on the holidays than I thought I had.
Oh.
I was like, one of my nephews wants a Lego set. I really like Legos. I'm going to buy him a cool Lego set. So I found this like Star Wars Lego set. When I picked it up, I had misread one of the digits. I was like, this is a really cool set for $50 because Legos are not cheap.
Uh-oh.
It was closer to $500. I don't know if you guys have this, but when you go to buy something and like you all of a sudden realize like, uh-oh, ego or pride steps in and they're like, what are you gonna do? Tell him you're not gonna get it now? Oh, is it too expensive for you? What's gonna stop you? Come on, be the big man. Make the purchase. And I was like, I am the big man. I'm buying this Lego set. And then as I was leaving with my purchase, I was very proud of because I followed through. I realized I have more than one niece and nephew. And now I've got to try to treat them somewhat equally. Oh dear God, what have I done?
You got to match what you just did. I see.
So, my budget for Christmas shopping went up a little bit more than I expected it to.
The thing about having a thing in your possession after you've bought it is you can just keep that and not give it as a gift that costs $500 or return it.
Sell it on eBay.
Or any number of things that don't involve giving it to a child and then being like, well, I guess your other...
Well, you say child. My nephew is like 22 years old, but...
Well, you were shopping at the Lego store. It's not our problem that the presumption was child.
I shop at the Lego store for me, and I'm a couple years older than 22 now. Are you old when you get to the point where you're lying about your age? Does that make you officially old?
I don't know. Why would you lie about your age? Who gives a shit?
The same voice that made me buy the expensive Lego set. What are you doing to me?
I hope there's someone standing next to you, Wade, or I have some concerns.
I do have this standing next to me.
Oh, I was really hoping it was going to be a human being, but that's okay.
Can you imagine if it was a human being? Oh, man.
And Uncle Jimmy.
What?
I don't know. Still, my brain was like, what if a person walks in?
I am alone.
I have something with which I take umbrage, and I want to talk about it now because I've been given a platform. I am not anti-bidet. I just want to start this.
I love where this is going.
I am in favor of bidets in general. I think they are pleasant. I think it's a nice experience to go to the bathroom and have that as opposed to just dry toilet paper or whatever.
A good butthole flossing goes a long way.
But there's this advertisements going around, especially on some podcasts that I watch / listen to. But in general, their ad read and their general theme is, why would you use toilet paper? Because you're just wiping the poop around on your butt. And that's gross. Use a bidet, our bidet. It just cleans your butt without having to wipe around poop. You're right, bidet company. I don't want to carefully wipe the dirty stuff off of my rear end when I'm done in the bathroom. I want to explode it off with a jet of water so that little particles nostrils of that poop go in every direction. Then I can still take the same toilet paper because you can't just use a bidet without toilet paper because then you have to dry it, which is still just wiping the wet poop off of your wet butt.
Who says you have to dry it?
I say you have to try it because putting a damp ass back into your underwear with who knows what particulate from the explosion of poop jet. I like bidets, but the idea that a bidet is somehow a less gross way of disposing of what happens when you take a poopy and you need to clean your rear end is just terrible and stupid. And I resent that is a strategy. That makes me not want to use bidets. That makes me like, oh yeah, well, I'll just use it. I'll wipe it. I'm just gonna wipe poop. What about that then?
Let me introduce you to this thing I call jar of flies. So hear me out. You lay down after you spread your cheeks, you open the jar, and all of your problems are just gobbled away.
I don't think you understand what flies do with poop.
I don't like any of this.
Okay. What about aquarium of dung beetles? Now listen to me. They
It's
roll
a
it up.
terrarium. It's a terrarium.
I am shutting this down because this is shockingly not the first time I've hosted an episode and it's immediately gone into poop talk.
Oh, you're the host, Mark? I thought Wade was the host. I gotta be honest.
I am
thought I was...
shutting this down. I know you guys may be surprised at this, but it's, it's weird that this has happened more than once.
Look, it's not about the poop. I just am raising, it's a truth in marketing issue really more than anything. It's a bad scam and I'm pro bidet, but I am anti lies in marketing. So it's a marketing rant, Mark. It's not about poop. It's not about butt stuff at all, almost.
Well, either way, we're moving on because this topic of discussion is actually vital to the future and it has very little to do with poop.
I'll be the judge of that.
All right, I'm the judge of the episode. Bob's the judge of poop. Wade, what?
I'm the poop judge.
Wade, what are you the judge of?
Bald. Sorry. I couldn't. It came out like I was
It erupted like a bidet attached to a power washer.
like a bidet of truth. It came out and rose out of me.
Yeah, I guess I'm the judge of bald because fuck you guys.
I didn't say it. I just laughed really hard at it.
Damn you, Mark. God damn you, Mark.
I feel
Unbelievable.
Listen, Bob, I'm giving you 3 points for making me laugh. Wait, I'll give you 4 points because it's a hard job being the judge of bald.
Is it for the flies? Oh, no, for that. Okay.
You reminded me, -1. So today we are going to be talking about something that I'm starting to learn about. It's not lenses. Don't be afraid.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
It's brain organoids.
I wish it was lenses.
All right, so I want you guys to give me what you think brain organoids are.
All right. So oids, when you think of like steroids. So oids are something you take. Organs are either something you play or they're the things inside your body that have like crucial functions, which the brain is probably an organ, right? So organoid, and it's a brain organoid. So it's something you take to enhance your brain's function.
No, Bob.
Much in the way that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, the philosophical mitochondria organoid of the brain is the powerhouse of the... I'm imagining that an organoid is a subsection of the brain that is responsible for a specific set or type of task or something, and that it's because the brain is an organ, but within it there are different areas that do different things, and so the organoids are like the different non-physical delineated areas of the brain functions.
I like your line of thought. Still incorrect. A cerebral organoid or brain organoid describes an artificially grown in vitro miniature organ resembling a brain. Cerebral organoids are created by culturing pluripotent stem cells in a three-dimensional rotational bioreactor, and they develop over the course of months. The brain is an extremely complex system of heterogeneous tissues and consists of a diverse array of neurons. This complexity has made studying the brain and understanding how it works a difficult task, which is why they are making brains in vitro.
Why is that more horrifying?
I think brain steroids are much scarier because like your eyeballs shrink up and you're like
1 point for make me laugh. All right, there you go. You get one. You get one. All right, there you go. What's happening nowadays is brain organoids are going beyond just studying how the brain works, because there was an article, and actually I'm going to share screen. I know this is a problem for people that are only watching, but if you guys take a look at what you see. So I want, Bob, you describe what you're seeing in the pictures, please.
Little things with little brain chunks growing off of them, I guess.
I've got this. Based on the picture alone, it looks like pancake batter with 2 meatballs stuffed in them.
If I use my powers of perception, the brains look like they sort of developed eyes.
For those who are just listening, it's exactly what was described. It does look circular like pancake batter, and it has 2 dark, like brownish chunks. So the title of this from Science Alert, written by Michelle Starr: scientists grew mini brains from stem cells, then the brains sort of developed eyes.
So this is horrifying to you, Mark. Is this the part that's horrifying?
It's not horrifying yet. That's the thing. That's the topic of discussion. Is this horrifying or is this fascinating?
I think it's fascinating.
Horrinating.
It's horrinating.
Pacifying.
Well, that's really straddling the fence there. You gotta pick a side.
I think it's fascinating, and I could see, I guess, why you're prosing this as something that could be horrifying, but I think where that is, not very horrifying.
I think in theory, or in whatever, like thinking about this, I would agree. Looking at those images, this is one of those moments where I want to back up, put on a suit, and just go, has science gone too far this time?
I don't know the details of how stem cells differentiate, but the way that at least the title of the article is phrased and the tone of it gives me the impression that what they intended to do was take some stem cells, put them into the bioreactor, blah 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 thing. We're going to create conditions where we think brain cells will develop from these stem cells. And while they were trying to develop only brain cells, they also developed some very rudimentary eye structures, which, given our, as far as I know, relatively simplistic understanding of cell differentiation in general, doesn't seem that weird to me. It seems like they accidentally made these things that had some brain cells and some eye cells, and they were like, huh, didn't see that coming.
So your conclusion is this is all accidental, it's incidental, interesting quirk, no ramifications.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly on purpose, but like, I think this is just part of the process of they're doing research in an area that humans don't have a very deep grasp of the complexities of, and it's, you know, it happened and they were kind of like, oh, we should study that. That's interesting. And I'm sure they did. And hopefully they learned something useful.
I think this is like the Alien movie where Ripley has like a baby that's also part xenomorph, and like, it's like, mama, and it's like, oh, that's amazing that happened, but also I want to rip my own eyeballs out and go wash them in bleach, because that is the most horrifying thing I've ever seen.
All right, well, that's good, because if you feel that way now, then you guys are going to really feel strange, because the name of this episode is likely the brain organoid iceberg. That was the surface. Human brain organoids implanted into mouse cortex respond to visual stimuli for first time.
Ooh, interesting.
I'm on the horrified fence because visually it's horrifying to look at. However, as someone who worked in the medical field of eyes for a while, and I understand how complex, like, whenever you have glaucoma, whenever you have anything that goes wrong with the retina, things that go wrong with the optic nerve, there are certain things that go wrong with eyes, unless things have changed dramatically in the last 10 years that I don't know about. They go with a, we can treat it, we can't cure it method. They can give you drops, they can like try to help with your eye pressure, they can try to help with certain things, but there gets to be certain errors and things that go wrong with your eyes where it's just like, there's really not much we can do. If this develops in a way where like they can figure out how to grow stem cells to help an optic nerve, or, you know, to help with different parts of the eye. I mean, obviously the brain too, which I don't know much about that, but eyes alone, that would be amazing to be able to help people that have blindness, that have glaucoma, that have different issues that so far we've been able to cure. So that is a fascinating and amazing thing if we can do it. But looking at the pile of sludge with the meatballs is horrifying. So I'm going to stick with horrifying, but I would want to note that I do respect it as someone who worked with eyes and knows that there are developments that are badly needed.
That sounds like a good conclusion. Bob, initial thoughts before I dive deeper.
Dive deeper, I'm ready.
Human cerebral organoids establish subcortical projections in the mouse brain after transplantation.
That alone, I think, is interesting. So that essentially they put the lab-grown human tissue or humanoid tissue, whatever, into a mouse's head, and it joined synapses with the mouse's brain.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Importantly, the grafted human cerebral organoids functionally integrated into pre-existing neural circuits by forming bidirectional synaptic connections with the mouse host neurons.
I mean, mice are used a lot for like medicine testing and other testing, right? Like lab rats is a well-known thing. There has to be certain similarities already, I would imagine, between mouse brains and human brains to the point where they use them for testing for things like this. It doesn't seem like they'd be super close.
I think it's more like ease of reproduction, ease of use on such a small mammal creature. I don't know if the mice are actually any more significantly similar to humans than any other non-human.
I mean, that's possibly true too. That's fair. It just seems like they do a lot of testing on them for things that are then like they go to human trials. I don't know if they
look. Mice don't have souls, so everyone's chill if we really just fucking murder a bunch of mice for science. That's the deal.
It is one of those things where they breed very quickly. They live relatively short lives. They are fairly similar in that they're mammals, but you know there are obviously animals that are closer. But it's like it's the ethical line is kind of like, yeah, mice and rats. Like that's kind of because science has to be done somehow, and it's not all fun. Compared to control mice, the mice transplanted with cerebral organoids showed an increase in freezing time in response to auditory condition stimuli, suggesting the potentiation of the startle fear response. So what this means is that it extends beyond vision.
It affected their brain function.
And it affected their musculoskeletal like responses. The control goes beyond just vision. It actually was integrating with the rest of the neurological system.
Did they put this on top of a mouse's already existing brain, or did they like replace part of the brain? How did they?
I was trying to do research. I remember something about that, whereas like they put it into regions of the brains that they wanted it to affect. I don't know if they removed that portion of the brain beforehand. I can't say. There is an image that I have here that is really, really cool. I'll share this one, but I don't know if this is indicative of what they did, which seems like it just plopped right on top of there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell because if that is a slice, it does go into part of it, but
I mean, it's also three-dimensional. It wraps around forward to backwards, probably. I would imagine cutting into the mouse brain is probably damaging and also negates the nature of them as a control thing to add the thing to. So it's probably just grafted on, but I don't know.
For those that are not watching, there's, oh, that's nice. Oh, an image of a slice of a rat brain is colored red on a black background. A lime green human organoid sits on the top left of the brain. It looks like a tumor. That's the funny thing about this is it looks a lot like a tumor just sitting in the brain. And the way that it was describing it, it kind of cooperating and forming with the neurons that were there in the rat's brain was very indicative of kind of how like cancer works in some ways, into co-opting vascular systems and communicating in certain ways.
That's also how tissue, I mean, that's how tissue works in general. The thing about cancer is that it replicates at a speed and in a way where the destruction of cancer is not that it's a tumor, it's that it's a tumor that grows and spreads and metastasizes and destroys systems that way, right? There are a lot of tumors that you can have that you could totally, like, they might not even say you should have removed because it's like, well, the surgery would be more damaging than just leave that mass in there. It's fine. It's benign. It's not going to do anything.
The brain organoids were growing in that they were having new neural connections, but it was more growing in the way that it was extending to form those connections by weaving itself into the rest of the brain.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to like I would imagine like tissue grafts and stuff, right? Part of the point if you get like a skin graft is you do want it to revascularize and you want it to integrate with your body's system. And so that seems like a normal thing that would happen, but maybe it's not. The fact that the synapses work across between the DNA structure of whatever a mouse synapse is and the structure of a human synapse, I think is very interesting. Like, I would be curious how that communication worked, because they're just synapses, which is still electrical impulses, I guess, at a basic level, but it's like two different operating systems that are unrelated in a lot of ways, I would think.
Can we differentiate between? I'm assuming mice also have stem cells. Can we really differentiate between the stem cells?
Do you mean between mouse stem cells and human stem cells, or?
Yeah, because I don't even know if we can differentiate between human stem cells and other human stem cells at the moment, can we? Like, I don't know. I don't know much about stem cells. Let me preface that. In my brain, there's different stem cells that have different little coded packages in them that do different things. So like some stem cells will be...
That's the thing about stem cells. They are all the same. A glob of stem cells is one glob of all the same things. The differentiation is how a stem cell turns into a brain tissue, a liver tissue, whatever. That is a complex like chemical and biological process that I know none of the details of, but my understanding is that the human research on it is pretty limited, and the understanding is pretty limited as well. But like if you harvest stem cells from someone, they're all literally just stem cells.
So would a mouse's stem cells be the same thing as that thing?
No. It's per species, and also there are like offshoot stem cells. So there's like the skin has stem cells, but they are specialized to skin stem cells. It can be reverted backwards to be an original, like I forget what the actual name is, but that's why a lot of research is about like fetal stem cells and like, you know,
because those are like unchanged. Those are just generic stem cells, right?
So are we closing in on making a real life version of Pinky and the Brain?
Pretty much. There was an article that I was trying to find where they actually spliced in some genes of like human brain DNA into a chimpanzee, and they didn't allow it to be born, but it was growing, and they could see through like scans that its brain was starting to be much bigger than it should be. And I don't remember what this article was. It might just be I'm like quoting the beginning of Planet of the Apes or something like that.
Ethics. Yikes.
Yeah, but there's some questionable ethics going on here. We're gonna keep descending unless anyone wants to swim to the surface now.
I like it. Iceberg me, daddy.
So working off of the studies going into brain organoids, they are starting to develop technology that allows neural connections to form with traditional electronic circuitry so that we can interpret signals and send them across. Because what this is all trying to showcase is that the adaptability of neurons is very high, but the fundamental physics behind their conduction is different than electronics, but not that different. You can get shocked and your whole nervous system can go all over the place, but it's like the way that they work with sodium and potassium ion gates to actually conduct signals, and the way that they like have the myelin sheath and like the way signal conducts is different, but not that different. You can still put like electric shocks on your body and your muscles will twitch. That will occur, but the sophistication of communication through chemical signals is still out of reach. It uses brain organoids, bundles of tissues mimicking human cells that are used in research to model organs. Organoids are made of stem cells capable of specializing in different cells, in this case neurons, akin to those found in our brain. The research aims to build a bridge between AI and organoids. Some AI systems rely on a web of interconnected nodes known as a neural network, in a way similar to how the brain functions, not that like close, but very similar. So they are starting to do research into whether or not there can be a bridge in between computers and the brain.
I mean, certainly that's the prologue chapter of a dystopian book about how human brains melded with computers and everything was ruined and society collapsed. But
or whenever your teachers used to tell you growing up, you're not always going to have a calculator on you, and you open up your skull and show it, and they're like, fuck you, Mrs. I'm not going to say your actual name, but I do have a calculator built in now.
Maybe while everyone pulls out their phone, you know. Next up, cyborg computer with living brain organoid aces machine learning tests.
Ooh, very interesting. I'm curious what exactly the machine learning test is, and I'm sure we don't have the type of details or knowledge to get into that in a meaningful way, but interesting.
Okay, as incredible as recent advances have been in machine learning, artificial intelligence still lags way behind the human brain in some important ways. For example, the human brain happily learns and adapts all day long on an energy budget of about 20 watts. So the brain, very efficient. If you were to like equate the amount of energy that the brain uses throughout the day, it's 20 watts of power, which is not that much power. A comparably powerful artificial neural network to do, say, like the DALL-E stuff or ChatGPT uses about 8 million watts of power. An ungodly amount of power. A stupid.
A day?
A day.
Meanwhile, all I need is some chicken nuggets and Funyuns, and I'm good to go.
I mean, yeah, you eat one Funyun, or maybe 2 or 3. That's about the amount of power that your brain needs to function all day long. And it can do some, like, again, it's not a computer in terms of its ability to accurately do numbers, but it is doing incredible amounts of visual and audio processing, sensory processing, all prioritization. It's doing a ton of different things. Memory, there's so many things going on in the brain, and yet it works on 20 watts and you barely notice it. So we are now living in the era of the biocomputer, a cyborg-esque confusion of silicon and living tissue. In September, they spoke to Cortical Labs, who stunned the world by growing an 800,000 odd brain cell silicon substrate mixed computer that played Pong. So these neurons in a petri dish basically were grown. I have a picture here. It helps illustrate it. I know this is a very picture heavy thing for people watching at home, but again,
We only care about our viewers here.
yes, but we're going to describe it. We've been describing it. If you can see this picture, what it essentially is it looks like a web of like fibers, and that's the neurons growing over top.
On a checkerboard.
Yeah, but underneath it, you can kind of see a checkerboard pattern, series of square things, and that's an array of electrodes. A very small one, but as you can see, compared to neurons and cells, even our smallest electronics are still kind of big.
It looks like something killed like a small rodent and scattered its bones over this too, like all the little rocky things.
It played Pong. I would be curious if they had an analysis of how much of the computational load was processed by the organic neuron. Are there, is it talked about if there's any like processing cores, silicon based processing cores on this? Is it a hybrid, or is it purely neuron processing power, or what?
This reminds me of where I was young and I had like an afro and I used to go play in the woods, and like I'd have all kind of like sticks and debris in my hair. Then I would go take a shower, and then if I'd look at the drain in the shower afterward, it was very similar to that image, just hair and a whole bunch of crap clogging up the drain.
Ah, I see. Okay, so what they did is the grid array represents not one-to-one, but the screen at which Pong is played on. So that picture you saw, imagine that they used that as a template for they gave signals because it's not seeing the screen. So what they did was, on a very basic level, whenever there was a paddle position over on the left side, they would have a certain number of the array light up to indicate that. And they basically trained the array of cells across that to, if it wanted to move the paddle down, it would like propagate a signal that would go more south. And then over on the right, they would do the same thing going over there. And then the ball, they would give the neurons signals of where the ball was by moving it across the grid substrate and give it a position. So what it says is like, training dish brain, that was the name, was understandably tricky. Reward and punishment are usually key if you're going to train an organism to perform a specific task, but that won't work on these cell cultures because they have no dopamine system to incentivize them. Instead, the researchers took advantage of what's called free energy principle. Essentially, this says that the cells at this level will always try to minimize the unpredictability in their environment. So if the brain cells failed to hit the ball with their paddle, the system would deliver an unpredictable stimulus for 4 seconds. So they would shock it.
That sounds a little bit like torture, but yeah, go on.
For every successful hit, they would receive a brief, predictable signal before the game continued on, also in a predictable manner. So it's like, think of it like you hit it, it goes ding, doo ding, in the same pattern, and if it didn't, it could be white noise. Using this method, Dishbrain learned to play the game in 5 minutes. Quote, the beautiful and pioneering aspect of this work rests on equipping the neurons with sensations, the feedback, and crucially, the ability to act on their world. Remarkably, the cultures learned how to make their world more predictable by acting upon it. This is remarkable because you cannot teach this kind of self-organization simply because, unlike a pet, these mini brains have no sense of reward and punishment. This experiment might sound a bit spooky and ethically questionable, but other scientists explain that it isn't a kind of intelligence that we need to worry about mistreating. Quote, don't worry. While these dishes of neurons can change their responses based on stimulation, they are not sci-fi style intelligence in a dish. These are simple, albeit interesting and scientifically important, circuit responses. But what it shows is, again, in the mounting iceberg of evidence, the adaptability of human neurons is astonishing, and generally like neurons in general, it's astonishing. The ability to, even if you're blind, the only sensation coming in is an electrical signal in a grid array, but you're able to communicate with all the other nerves in your group and say, what's happening? What's happening? Oh, okay. All right. We're gotten a pattern in 5 minutes, able to play Pong, to create organization in the structure that was given to it, but create organization and propagate signals, communicate to each other, all while completing the objective in 5 minutes.
I feel like this iceberg, the deeper we go, the harder my brain is having a time of wrapping around all the things we're doing.
This is the part of science where I start to question whether I'm just an ignorant fool or whether science is not as cool as it sounds when you dig into it. Because this is one of those things where when you read the headline, it's like, they taught a brain in a dish to play Pong, and you're like, holy shit. And like, well, what they did was they took electrosensitive organic cells and put them across an electronic array and then gave them positive and negative reinforcement stimulus to do something that we don't know how fast the game of Pong was playing. We don't know how complicated the moves could be, what the feedback, because there's a lot of levels of how hard even just Pong can be, right? And that grid was not that big. It was maybe like 12 by 9 or something, 15. It was like, it's not like it was a 1080p grid of pixels and this thing was interpreting complex imagery. But at the same time, it's still like they did, clearly this is research that's progressing the understanding of how neurons work and the interconnectivity and how they adapted. It's very cool, but in terms of meaningful applications, this is one where as a non-educated, non-science person, I'm like, it doesn't seem like that would do that much. But, maybe this is on the path to understanding something that would be more applicable to something that would be completely world-changing or earth-shattering.
I don't know. I think, I guess I'm on kind of the opposite side of things, where it's once we get that base level of understanding, like think about what that opens. I guess I agree that by itself isn't that interesting, but I feel like once you have an answer to one of these like seemingly simple things, it's like how quickly that can balloon up into being able to like stack that or increase it or apply it somewhere else and combine things to where it becomes complicated very quickly. Because like if you think about human development, I mean, when you go from a sperm and an egg to a person, like that's not really a slow process either. So to take a section of nothingness, slap it on like a piece of toast, and all of a sudden it's playing Pong in 5 minutes, that sounds pretty cool to me.
You ready to go deeper?
Deep me.
Neuralink receives FDA approval for human trials of brain chips. Neuralink has struggled with concerns over treatment of animals used in clinical trials before. This is a different company, of course, but the principle is still the same. A electronic interface to human brains. This is not growing organoids, because if you think about it, and what you were saying, Bob, is totally true. It seems mundane, and in a sense it is, and it's isolated, but what it does is showcase the foundational principle of your neurons are super adaptable, even without you consciously being aware of it. You don't have to be aware if an electrode is attached to your brain and certain stimuli is attached to it. It could cause you to have a seizure for the rest of the system, but the neurons that are there would still adapt to it. Not saying it would fix any problems, but it's like it can. Not that it will, but it could.
What is this chip supposed to do?
Yeah, well, that's the thing I'm curious about. What is their stated goal or stated function of such a chip?
All right, so Neuralink's brain-computer interface will use invasive surgery. It's emerging as a key player in a fairly nascent brain-computer interface industry. While many companies have developed related systems, receiving FDA approval to release medical devices into the commercial market has been historically challenging for good reason. So this approval is to have a clinical trial for patients to have a product implanted into their brain, on the surface of the brain specifically. They call it the Link device. It'll be interconnected to the brain through flexible thread-like structures that will have to be inserted directly into the brain. Patients will have to learn to control the device using an app and will use Bluetooth to make inputs on a keyboard or mouse.
I love how dystopian that sounds. Please control the device.
And I don't know how much people should be excited to line up about this, because while FDA approval is very positive for the company, it is still facing investigations by the U.S. Department of Transportation for packaging and transporting contaminated materials in an unsafe manner, and under fire for the potential abuse of animals, with whistleblowers stating that around 1,500 animals have been killed since 2018.
Yeah, no, well, this is one of those things where, like, again, and maybe I don't have the knowledge to see it, but on the surface level, it's like, implanting a chip into the brain. This is the future, right? They're gonna, even if they're just trying to figure out, like, can you manipulate something like that once it's implanted and your brain starts to integrate with it, and maybe you get some tissue growth or whatever, like however it works. And they're just like, yeah, well, if we figure out that you can, maybe then we can make chips where you can actually do something with that. But also, like, there's every possibility that what they're doing is implanting very expensive, complicated seizure-inducing chips into people's brains. And, like, yeah, your neurons are adaptable. That does not necessarily mean that they're adaptable in a way that's conducive to human consciousness. They're adaptable in a way that's conducive to tissue living and to them being satisfied in the way that they like to function. But I have no idea how related or unrelated that might be to human consciousness or a human controlling a computer with their brain electricity.
I am not endorsing this thought.
Okay. All right, but say it proud.
Is it possible that putting it into an adult brain would be less adaptable than putting into a growing brain?
You got a good point there, buddy.
Not saying we should do that.
So you're saying they need to be implanted into children. I see.
I mean, let's go younger, really. It's babies.
No, you're going down exactly deeper into the iceberg of the place I wanted to go.
Good. All right.
All right, so we're leaving the world of I have articles and research to back up what I'm saying, and we're going into a world that is kind of more about conjecture. And you get an article that is titled like "Move Over Artificial Intelligence: Science Announced a New Organoid Intelligence Field," but it is kind of this mentality of, yeah, it's much easier to change something that hasn't been grown fully yet than it is to do something else, because the whole subject of like brain organoids, which I will get back to because it circled back, but the field of neurological research, we are currently at a point where, you know, Gattaca, the movie Gattaca.
Battlestar Gattaca.
In a world where genetic modification has been not perfected, but mastered by humanity.
In this case, we are approaching the place where you can kind of start to see where guiding development into a certain place that you would like, as far as like bigger brains, taller babies, choosing the sex of the baby, it could be something that, you know, it's not far off in the future, because at least in now, it's like the observations, what happens when you do these things. Because as I was talking before about that chimp, which I couldn't find the article, I might be talking about out my ass about it, but they implanted a monkey with like a developing fetal monkey with human brain cells, and it started to incorporate into the brain. Or I can't remember if it was gene editing at first or something like that, and then they didn't allow it to like continue as long as they killed it. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's easier to interfere with something when it's developing. What does that mean for the future?
Well, once the monkey stopped offering its young food without currency in exchange, they knew they'd created a monster. No one wanted capitalistic chimp.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That was another point for you, Wade. That's good.
This is a whole, I mean, and Gattaca touches on this in a way that's, you know, it's a movie for entertainment purposes, but also it makes some social commentary. If you told me that if I was going to have a baby, I could do something, you know, CRISPR-esque to genetically modify or affect the baby to guarantee that the baby would not have any genetic birth defects, or to guarantee that the baby would not have any like cancers or anything, like, yeah, that sounds great, but that's in the exact same neighborhood as choosing how, you know, try to get a taller baby, try to have a baby with blonde hair or blue eyes, or whatever your preference is. I don't have a good answer for the ethics of humanity in modifying the growth of fetuses in that way, but there's no version of science that does exist or has existed that humans have had such a grasp on any kind of biology, or even lots of other kinds of science where we do have a pretty solid grasp on things, where I think that the science is definitively correct and ultimately all-knowing enough where I would say that it's a good idea to use whatever that scientific knowledge is to affect human fetuses. Medicine and genetics and biology in general is one of the fields where humans have a lot to figure out, and only barely understand why some drugs cure some diseases or treat some symptoms, there is no fucking way that there's a level of understanding and knowledge base that's like deep enough and correct enough that anything like this should be happening in any of our lifetimes. I'm not saying it's impossible that humanity will ever reach a place where we understand everything about how humans develop and the genetics of it and what influences what. Like, yeah, I don't know, hundreds of years, thousands of years, if humanity persists as a species, maybe someday the ethical concerns of doing something where you don't understand every little detail of what you're doing to something that is going to be a human person will be okay. But right now, not even close. I don't know that there's any kind of science where humans have that kind of understanding where it's like, yes, we definitively know everything about this. We don't know definitively everything about anything. I feel like the thing about science is that scientists constantly are like, whoa, shit, did you guys see that happen? Oh, we gotta study that. Even in fields where there's a lot of understanding, there are still things where it's like, I didn't expect that to happen at all. Oh man, we got some more stuff to figure out. It's a complicated issue, but I don't think it's that complicated for where we are as a species. We're not there yet. We're not there at all.
All right, good point for you.
Oh, that was like a 7-point answer. Come on now.
2 points for you. You ducked yourself into it. That's good. All right. So getting back to the brain organoids, why we are here in the first place, because I think we can all agree messing with babies' genes, probably not great idea. Wade, I gotta shoot your idea down. I'm sorry.
Are you pro baby gene editing, Wade?
Oh,
okay.
Point for boldness. So funneling all this down back to brain organoids, and there is a question of like what it actually is, what it can do, and then there's ethical questions about like how much brain is too brain in these brain organoids.
What's the brain size limit?
Yeah, that actually is a question, because I want to talk about brain-aware again. We touched on it very briefly, and this is actually not the Pong thing. That was the precursor to what brain-aware is. So the researchers hooked up brain-aware to the brain-aware organoid computer chip into a system, treating it as an adaptive living reservoir. I don't fully know what that means, but they made sure the mini brain was responding to electrical inputs in a suitably non-linear fashion, checked that it had some kind of memory in effect, figured out how to feed it spatial data in a grid array, and then started some unsupervised learning tests. Long story short, they set it up in a way that it could take in data, and they were making sure it wasn't just like completely one-to-one linear responses, that it was like actually doing something and that the cells were alive, basically. So they focused on 2 areas. Firstly, speech recognition. Some 240 audio clips of adult males were speaking Japanese were fed into the brain-aware chip after being converted into electrical signals. Remarkably, on day 0, the organoids was able to distinguish from a single vowel sound which of the 8 different people were talking with 51% accuracy, which doesn't seem too high, but that was day 0. And that's just differentiating, picking between 8 with a 50% accuracy. 2 days later, it had risen to 78% accuracy from a single vowel sound. I don't know how many cells this is, but I think it's 800,000. They then moved on to mathematics, getting the brain-aware chip to predict a Henon map, which is a typical nonlinear dynamic system with chaotic behavior. This involved an extra layer of abstraction, as each 200-point 2D Henon map had to be converted into a one-dimensional spatio-temporal electrical signal that could be fed into the brain tissue. In 2 days, it increased its accuracy at predicting where a given point would be from 0.356 to 0.812% accuracy out of 1. To flex on Team Silicon, they also threw the same problem at some artificial neural networks, finding that it notably outperformed a ANN, which must be artificial neural network, without a long short-term memory unit, and showed slightly lower accuracy than ANN with LSTM, decreasing the training times by 90%. There was a lot of big words in there, and a lot of the people listening at home are probably very lost. I'm going to summarize. They did some tests that are typical of machine learning right now with brains in a jar. Very small jar, very small brain in a jar. It did good. Data, there's a lot of graphs and a lot of data points of what I'm looking at. I'm not even showing it. Don't worry about it. It would be gibberish to you. It's basically gibberish to me. But it did good, and it did better than current machine learning models, right? So the question is, if this area of science is allowed to pursue, At what point did we, and if it's like working and it's scalable and all this, at what point is it growing a human outside of their body, just their brain, because all we are really is the brain and the nervous system and everything else? At what point did you just cut a person's brain out and put it in a jar? In all of this, it's a very science-heavy episode, but I'd say this year was all a bunch of people talking nonstop about AI. What is going to happen with this line of development and the new can of nightmares opening up, where we've got brain in jars, and there's two lines of science, one pure silicon, one neurological computers.
I think we're going to have semi-tissue-oriented graphics cards in our computers that learn and adapt, so that we've got like biomechanical PCs. And whoever gets there first, Apple or PC, will really determine which way Mark leans by the end of this year.
That's prety good, because long story short, this is a predictive kind of thing. We're looking forward to this new year. What nightmare is going to befall us? Because as it has been evident with every other year since then, we go into this year, we go into the past years being like, this year will be better than the rest. I want to know how this year is going to be worse than the rest. With this line of science, anything else, when does the nightmare train stop?
I know there was a lot of science talk in this episode, but I'm a little surprised Wade isn't more into it.
I was pretty into it, wasn't I?
It's a philosophical question, though, that Mark is posing right now. He's effectively asking, when is a clump of brain matter humanity? And, or maybe not even humanity specifically, when is it a sentient being that deserves its own rights? I
studied this in a similar fashion for taking out the computer parts, but like whenever I took philosophy classes on abortion, that issue specifically, when do cells become a human life, I would have loved to delve into all of that. But one, it's been a while since I've looked into it. Two, I was too curious about how deep the iceberg went. I didn't want to focus on any one level too long because I just wanted to see how far we were going to get in the iceberg today. But also, what I learned from the class I took was that we just don't have an answer. And I could give you my thought on it, but it wouldn't mean shit because there's another article out there somewhere else that completely disputes my feelings on the matter and leaves us all going, maybe that's why it's still a hot debated issue today, because none of us know.
Isn't that the point of talking about it? Mr. Philosophy here discounted the entire idea that even if the conclusion to a philosophical question is, I have an opinion, and the opinion is based primarily on how I view things more than anything objective, isn't that still valuable to share?
Yeah, but we have time constraints on how long we can talk during one episode, so I have to balance going, you know what, whoever wins this, we can go into the ethics of it next episode, have a whole episode on it if you want.
If you want